G'day guys, nice to see whoever's here. Wakey Toasters first off the block. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've just basically been, I was watching actually some other thing, and actually the head of the Greek Orthodox Church in Greece, he was making a speech and I was just listening to it. And then I was just checking my comments. And I'm going, what the fuck's going on here? And I started noticing certain comments being wiped out or that. And then I went back through my comments to see. And then I started having a bit of suspicion because I noticed that just recently somebody tried to actually put 3 times the comment, not once, 3 times. That person was getting removed. And I'm going, what the fuck is going on? So I went through my notifications and compared my channel thing. They weren't there. And I couldn't restore them. They weren't even in the held for review. Now, let me just put this on screen. I'll share my screen. So that's my screen. And that's my channel, as you can see. Channel, Harry Sopanos. And basically, as you can see, I've gone into the comments. Nothing in the held. There's absolutely nothing in the held. No filters, no nothing. There's no filters here, as you can see. Absolutely nothing. And all that. And they're even giving me a hard time here. They're keeping removing this sort of the highlighted thing because it's their thing. So I had to change that. That's yellow now, not white, the YouTube thing, which I've put a cross through. Fuck them. And fucking woke up idiots. And then basically I was doing that, and then I looked at my announcements, and there's Paul. And Paul Snyder, was putting all these comments, and they were disappearing each time. He put 3 times, not once, 3 times the same comment. So he was persistent, let me put it that way. But with his persistence, it actually, allowed me to realize something the fuck is happening here that shouldn't be happening. G'day, Ramnika. Good to see you, mate. And, well, that's what the damn screen is. So stop complaining, bitch. So, g'day, Angela. Oh, trouble. Yes, unexpected because I'm pissed off. That's why. And basically, they were removing that. I went back through my history, it took me a while going. I'm not going to go right through it now, but I actually noticed there's been a number of comments that have actually been removed. And when I go into my channel to go through all the comments, they're not there. They're not even in the held for review. Nothing is there. If they're removing stuff, they should be putting it at the held by review. That's the policy. They're not even following their own fucking policy, the arseholes. Bunch of YouTubia mafia at their normal stuff. G'day, DJ Projectus. Good to see you here, mate. So I'm absolutely fucking pissed off. And I was just wondering, what the fuck is going on with all this sort of stuff? Why are these comments vanishing? Why? And I actually noticed that even some of my own replies on other channels had been deleted, eliminated. Let me just enable you, same smug, had been eliminated. I was going, what the hell's going on here? So, hello, Kitty. Good to see you here. And Sonia, good to see you. And I was going, there is something really wild here that's actually going on, Same smug didn't even come through the comments. Mate, you didn't come through the comments. No, there must be bullshit YouTube. Yeah. When you actually put things like that, or P, this pisses me, or P, or stuff like that, or as this other guy that I'm going to show you actually says HH, which the woke community consider High Hitler. And this guy's as like a hunter. So happy hunters, happy hunting, they actually use. But basically what they did was they actually were deleting his comments, you know, because and I've actually gone through and I've actually realized some of my comments got deleted from some other carnivore and some other channels. And I got pissed off with them. And a couple of them I unsubscribed because I was pissed off with them. I've gone back and subscribed because I realized it wasn't their fault. They are not deleting stuff. I'm not deleting stuff, you know. Yeah, g'day, mate. I'm not deleting stuff. It's basically YouTube that's fucking deleting stuff. They've gone full woke. Absolutely full fucking woke, these assholes, and they're basically just, you know, deleting things left, right, and center just because certain words or certain combination of words or certain acronyms trigger off their wanky, you know, behavior. It's just bloody crazy sort of stuff. Came across this video, this guy here, and he's actually got, I should give him a tick. Are your YouTube comments replying, disappearing and all that? And he actually talks about how he was basically, people can go and listen to it themselves. I'll just put it in there just in case I get infringed for copyright. So I don't want to lose this video comment. So that's there. You can actually go and listen to what he's saying. And he was basically, because I was using Happy Hunter, HH, it was getting deleted. And all these other bloody wacky things. So, guys, I'm not deleting your comments. I'm not basically... The only comments that I delete, and I'll be quite clear that I've got zero tolerance for people putting up comments with pornographic links or racism and stuff like that, like open, you know, those ones I delete. I haven't had to delete anything in terms of racism because nobody's actually put anything nasty on my channel anywhere. The only stuff that actually gets deleted, which I personally delete, is pornographic links, like, you know, sending you to a pornographic, you know, sort of or a dating site or whatever. I remove those when they pop on my channel. So that's pretty much it. Well, you're an exception. Llamas are an exception. But yeah, it's been wild. Yeah, I'm having some brie, some French brie. So yeah, you caught me. I was trying to finish off my meal, but it's 7:08 here. But yeah, I was in the middle of it. But yeah, it's just crazy what's happening at the moment. So it's bloody not amusing at all. You know, that's all I can say. G'day, Jay. Here's Blinky sending his personal links to links, Harry. Yes. He should be removed. Just for fun. Yeah, it's been wild. It's been crazy. All of the cheese. Oh, I've got more in the fridge. Don't worry. I've got more in the fridge. You don't want to come close to Blinky. Yeah, but basically, you know, this guy was actually saying, just go back a bit.
You know, I reply, my replies disappear. You comment, they disappear. I comment on other channels, and that disappears. And that's why I always try to say, I'm not deleting y'all's comments. You know, if you comment on one of my videos and it disappears, or I don't reply, I didn't do that. That we can thank YouTube for. That we can thank the woke community and all the little pansies that get their feelings hurt no matter what you say. Because they can interpret everything to be bad. So I just wanted to let y'all know it's not me doing it, and we just have to work within the constraints.
And that's the reality. It's not me either doing it. It's basically these assholes who have put themselves on a pedestal and think that they can basically remove anybody's comments. willy-nilly. Some of it's just absolutely laughable. It is absolutely laughable. So what's happening is certain word combinations or certain acronyms or whatever seem to be triggered. So if you're basically putting a comment and it's actually getting removed, the only thing that I can suggest is try some different combinations. Yeah, basically the AI is basically out of fucking control. And you can understand why people, and what it's doing is when it's actually being triggered, so you guys could be, but without intentionally wanting to, by having, putting certain comments and getting deleted, what happens is that actually affects my channel because the less comments are there. And or if somebody gets pissed off with me thinking that I've deleted the comment, they'll basically go and, I mean, I even leave vegan comments and I comment on them. So you guys can see their arguments and my comment against them, what I argue against them. I've had a case where I had like one of them where I just had one after another reply with a vegan. I don't have a problem with, deleting people. It's only when they're nasty, like racist comments or basically really, really nasty stuff, or trying to push people to link to certain things which I find inappropriate. That's the only time I delete them. But, that's very, very few and far between things, Okay, yeah, YouTube unsubbed. Yeah, I know. And I'm a paid member. Yeah, exactly. And a mod. God, how crazy is that? That's exactly what, and I've actually found I've been unsubscribed from a number of channels myself that I was subscribed. And I was wondering, aren't these people actually making any videos anymore? Because I thought, oh, they'd stopped making videos. It wasn't that. They were making videos. It's just I wasn't getting any notification because I'd been unsubscribed without realizing. So, yeah, I've been there as well. So it's crazy. I had to go through and review all my channels, and because I've got quite a few channels. It took a while, and that's the problem. Sometimes people, if you've got small amount of channels, you can notice that you've been unsubscribed or something. But if you've got a large amount of channels that you're actually watching, you can actually miss things. And a lot of people have a lot of channels that they subscribe to, and they get unsubscribed without realizing. And those people lose out, and it's unfair because that shouldn't be happening. You should be the only person allowed to physically unsubscribe yourself from a channel. No one else, should be able to do that. You're the one that can actually physically connect to someone or disconnect from someone. You're the only one should have the right to transact with someone or not transact with someone. It'd be similar if I tried to walk into a supermarket and some asshole turned up and tried to prevent me from going into the supermarket. With what right? It's the same thing. What they're doing is they're disallowing you connecting to that supermarket or to that person in a sense. Who are they? Just because, let's say they were the council on that and you had to cross the road to get into the supermarket, the road there is for everyone. It's not for them to control who gets into that supermarket or not. It'd be the equivalent. And this is what they're doing. They are out of control, abusing their rights. The content holders are the ones that have established. Without content, YouTube is nothing but data centers and some wires. That's all they are. They produce nothing. They contribute nothing to this fucking community. They're a bunch of parasites that basically live off their creators, and they abuse their creators and the viewers of their creators. They should be ashamed of themselves, and basically government should start taking the stick to these pricks. But, that's not going to happen because those assholes in government are basically like that with them. That's the problem. Yeah, look, I know it does. I've still got. I don't have a big subscriber list there. I don't have a big subscriber list on any of the others. So this is still the main thing for me. That's the problem. If those other channels were to grow more, yes. And remember, this is a day job for me. Sorry, this is not a day job for me. This is just basically whenever I get a chance. So it's really hard to go hard like Bart or Primal Edge like Tristan and other people that can go hard on these and try and use a whole lot of different platforms, try and work around a lot of this sort of stuff. I don't have the time to do all that shit. I wish I had, but I don't. Maybe 5 years' time when I retire and, then I'll have more time. But at this stage, I don't, it's not that easy. Yeah, but it's fucking pissing me off. Yes, no end. The main reason I just did this this live thing is basically just to let you guys know what's happening. So, if you've had comments removed, then you know what's actually happening, so, or if you haven't got a reply, sometimes my replies have been removed, which pisses me off just because I put some word. I actually replied to, I can't remember who I replied to. This was a couple of months ago, and I kept actually getting, and I can't remember which word I used. Was it arseholes or something? I used some sort of word that tended to trigger the damn thing and it tended to delete. So I had to get rid of that word and use a different word. So I used a more mundane type plain word, and it allowed it. So yeah, it's crazy what's happening. I was having a chat back and forth with someone, and we reached 10 total comments. Then I replied with 4 comments, and they showed on my side, but counter stayed at 11. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, YouTube. They think they're untouchable. Yeah. Well, for now they are, because they've got political protection. They've got a protection racket that actually looks after them. But at some point in the future, people get pissed off enough. Look, it's no different. If you go back through history, there have been times when different organizations had a monopoly or had too much power, and politicians were too scared to take them on. And then the community got really pissed off. And the more the community and society got more pissed off with these people. So what they're doing is they're going to piss off more and more people, because people's replies, comments are going to be deleted. And as this escalates, this woke, authoritarianism, which is coming from YouTube and Google and all that, what will happen at that moment? People are going to be pissed off, and they're going to be complaining about, corporate authoritarianism, in social media, and that's when governments will act, because they'll be scared, not so much anymore worried about what the corporates say, but they'll be scared that they're going to lose votes in the community. That's when they'll, because they're a bunch of wankers, they put their hand out like that to take corporate money, but when they know their votes are going to be affected, that's when they'll start pressuring. Don't expect great things from politicians. Most today's politicians are not statesmen like in the past. They're corrupt little arseholes that have come out of universities, got trained, they're woke, fully woke. They get trained through the sort of the system, and they go and work for some politician. They've never worked in their life, done a real job, and they end up, in this political class, and that's what they are. And that's why the political class is so corrupt, because in the past it was average people, farmers, workers, businessmen, and a whole lot of different people that ended up politicians. Now it's this professional class coming out of universities with full woke attitude that are basically permeating the political class, and that's where the problem lies. But at some point, I hope that the community actually wakes up and realizes that these people are a waste of space, and and cause too much damage to our society. It's yeah, I know. It's you need to clean up your dirty talk. Bert, I thought I was colourful. I thought you thought I was colourful. I don't consider it dirty talk. I consider it colourful. Yeah. I have to do that when I use the fuck word or fucking. You have to modify it in some regard as well for it to get through. Yeah, it's crazy. You can have terrorists basically talking about beheading people on social media and get away, and the rest of us just talking just normal talk. You know, the woke community. Oh, we can't criticize them people, you know, but we can basically criticize the average person that just wants to, you know, vent their spleen or just be, you know, talk straight rather than talk shit. Yes. And it's the woke community that will go after the Christians like mad. They'll go after the Christian people, and they'll basically, you know, while some of the other groups, which we won't mention, you guys know, if they'll, even though they are talking absolute, you know, vile stuff, you know, completely untouchable, you know, crap. Yeah, it's absolute madness, you know, in that regard. Rainbow comments get banned? No way. That sort of stuff is full woke. It fits their agenda. Ah, yes, you wouldn't get your laughs. Yes. They definitely look after the vagoons. Yes, it's a bit like that. Yes, truly. Yeah, definitely are. One way of characterise them, I just call them social media Nazis, because that's what they are. They're authoritarians, the fascists. You know, they think that they can control what the community and what people can think and believe. You know, they're not Democrats. They don't believe in democracy. They are basically authoritarian Nazis who want to tell you what you can believe, what you can say, and control your free speech. That is why these people are trying to undermine free speech, you know, and push their own agendas. Your cheese suit, yeah, probably over my dead body. Because the reality is, they say social media companies, they are not like, you know, the Wall Street Journal or, you know, any other new, proprietor. They are proprietors. That means they produce their own content, they publish their own content, and they sell their own content. Okay? That's a completely different thing. I am the producer. All I'm using is this as a platform, and they get their cut. They sell me the access on their site, and they get their cut through advertising revenue. That's how they get their money. So what I'm doing is I'm acquiring a service. That means to be able to put my small business. It's like, let's say you're in a big building, and you know, they rented out all these different shops. And let's say they didn't rent the shops. They said, look, you can sell your stuff out of this shop. We're not going to charge you a rent, but we will basically advertise in your store. And I would say, fine. But the thing is, they couldn't control what I sold or who I sold it to. That's my business. And they couldn't control what I tell people or what they tell me in my store. It's my business. This channel is my business. They are interfering with my livelihood in a sense. Well, in this case, I'm not getting anything for it, but you know what I mean. They are interfering in my business. They are basically being corporate thugs and undermining my interests in that regard. So, no, it's because I know the arguments that are put out there by these corporates, but in a sense, this is no different. If they were to charge me for being on YouTube, all these content providers would leave. That's the reality. We would say goodbye to YouTube and go to another company. because they're charging us. But they have offered to give us free access to their platform, no different than in a building, somebody saying, I'm going to give you that piece of floor space for you to sell things. And I'm just going to put advertising, my own advertising up, and you can sell there. I'm not going to charge you rent. Okay? And if you want to, you can. And like me, I decided, yep, I'll set up a YouTube channel. I'll set up an outlet, so to speak, and I'll, not sell, but provide my information, because sometimes some of those outlets don't necessarily, it could be a charity. A charity can always give things away. It doesn't sell anything, So that's how it works. And in a sense, they have no right to basically interfere or be involved in what happens in my store or on my channel. And that's what they're doing. And we need to use these corporate tactics. If they were being used anywhere else in any other business like retail or anywhere else, these people would be brought on charges for damaging other people's businesses and livelihood and stuff like that. That's the sort of actions we need against these arseholes, because these arseholes are basically, just because they own the building, the data centers, it doesn't mean they own my business. My business is my fucking business. And that's the reality. Where am I? In Tasmania, Hobart, at home. Oh, well, the previous one was there. Did I click on it? I thought I clicked on it. Yes. You're a speciesist, you bad person. You bad llama. Yeah, exactly. To them, people equal animals. Yeah, exactly. Herd them in, whip them. No, they don't whip them. Just herd them in and feed them kibble. Exactly. Well, they can't look. They can't stop people. They think they may, but they can't. At some point, I believe that. Not at this stage. Not at this stage. I am on Odyssey and I am on Library. I haven't put much stuff up there. I need to probably put some stuff, and I need to sort of probably make some steps in moving into those other alternative communities. I think there is value in complaining. I mean, I don't think. Thanks, Trouble. Yes, there's always a good reason to basically have a rant. There's nothing wrong. It's, I think, as people, we should basically occasionally, express how we feel. This society isn't just for them in that regard. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, they would have taken it down because they're a bunch of thugs. So yeah, those Germans were right. These guys are absolute fucking thugs. Corporate thugs that think they can get away with anything. Nothing, Raymond. It's just basically I'm getting pissed off because they're actually removing my comments from certain places, and also having other people that subscribe to me having their comments removed. And I had one, I showed it earlier. You'll have to go back to the beginning and check it out, where some guy called Paul, he'd actually put it 3 times. He attempted to put comments on my channel, and they got removed each time. And I didn't want people to think that I'm removing them, because I'm not. They're getting removed, by these assholes who think that they can actually run. They're actually running basically a woke agenda. Tell us about the COVID means to you. Yes, some respiratory infection, no different to the flu. Okay, I'm eating and basically bitching. Exactly. I'm very much right to be pissed off. I mean, I do it for the community, but at the end of the day, whether you're running a business or you're running like a charity, because in a sense, I'm running a charity, okay, on YouTube, providing information freely and all that. But whether I'm doing one thing or another, it's costing me time, effort, It's not as if it's, I'm sitting around doing fuck all. It's actually, I have to put an effort in. I have to do a certain physical, mental activities to basically create content and put it up. No different than if I had an outlet and the people owning the building started basically putting up barriers to prevent me from doing business. I mean, I'm actually providing here a service. You've got no right to tell me what I can do. You own the building. You don't own my business. You own the data center, but you don't own my channel. I'm the creator of the channel. Now, the only reason I came to you is because you offered, free usage of your facility. Now, you didn't have to. You could have actually rented it out and said, I'm going to rent it out and we're going to rent, the data center, and you can actually put up your channel. Probably not many people would have taken that option. And so they offered us a different option. You can rent for free your channel, your space in a building, but we're gonna advertise. And you go, fine, you can advertise, because when you tick for the agreement, when you set up a channel, you actually say, yep, I'm going to do that. But that doesn't give them a right then to interfere in what I do or my interactions and transactions with my customers or my viewers. Do you see the sort of relationship? They are the data center. They're the building. They own the building, and they provide, rather than actually renting space in that building, they are providing it for free with the proviso that they can advertise within your business. And you sign off and say, yep, you can advertise, but I can say and do whatever I like in my business. And that's what I'm doing. Now, when they impede my ability to do that, that is basically illegal in most areas of business. I mean, if I was to walk into somebody's business as the owner of a building and then tell them how to run their business, interfere with their business, they could take me to court, for doing harm to their business. This is what these assholes are doing. They're doing harm to my business, to my channel, to other people's channels. That is legitimate. Unfortunately, at this stage, we don't have specific legislation for this area of commerce, but there are specific legislations similar in others. I think if people had, a crafty lawyer, and they could actually, a class action could emerge, we could probably get satisfaction in the courts, because, you could still use the existing laws. The existing laws still apply in a sense. It just have to be interpreted within a court. And I think any reasonable judge would actually consider that what we're actually saying is quite reasonable, and that YouTube's behavior interfering in my channel, my business, is basically who the wrong party is. But nobody's actually ever taken it to that level, because a lot of us are, I live in the other side of the planet, and it's really hard to basically access an American court from Tasmania. And at the end of the day, I'm not even getting any benefit, but I'm pissed off. And basically, I'm just hoping that there are maybe other YouTubers out there may at some point, I mean, I'm a small channel. I mean, I've not even got 1,000 subscribers, so I don't have much visibility, but I'm hoping you guys get around and tell people and link this video to other people, get them to understand the sort of corporate, the sort of legalistic sort of arguments that can be put forward. And maybe some of these people may be interested in doing something, especially those who have actually have an income from this, you know, they may take that next step, you know, something that I wouldn't do because, you know, I'm half away around the world. You know, all I can do is give ideas to people who may be affected in that regard. G'day, Kate. Thanks for the hugs and love. Yeah, so bloody annoyed is what the thing. So Tasmanian variant. We've got nothing down here at the moment. No variant down here. Oh, look, the Delta variant. I mean, if that's what you're talking about, I mean, that's probably spreading faster because it's not as lethal as the Alpha variant, the initial variant. Something that actually spreads easier tends to be less lethal. You know, because it's like the new strain of Ebola in Africa. It's actually YouTube variant. Is that what you're talking about? I don't think that's what he's talking about, Alex. But anyway, good try. But Tasmania. Is he talking about a Tasmanian YouTube variant? That's not going to happen. Oh God, not even thinking straight. Other people are talking about the YouTube stuff. Other people about the viruses. People are all over the place. Anyway, yeah, it's not at the moment. This when a disease becomes easier to spread, it spreads much easier. It becomes less virulent, less dangerous. You know, because usually if a disease kills very fast, it can't spread very fast. That's why the previous one, you know, stayed in the host for a long time and then spread very difficult. And that's why it was very hard to get the disease to spread very fast. It was only in certain societies where people were living very close to each other, where there was a possibility of more interaction. In societies like Australia and elsewhere, where people are living, you know, big homes, a bit of a distance from one home from another and all that, it actually means there's less of that. The current one, the Delta strain, obviously is able to spread much better as a respiratory infection, but it's not as lethal. And that's why we're noticing that the ICU numbers and all that are much lower of this one. So this is more like your regular colds and flus and stuff like that. So I'm actually less worried about it, even though the woke community have gone bizarre in this country. You know, they think that's the end of the world. The Delta strain has arrived. It's going to kill everyone. Oh, God. Fucking crazies. Absolutely fucking crazies. They just don't understand. This is basic virology. Any virologist that is worth anything will tell you that when a disease is able to transmit much more rapidly through a population, it's become less lethal, because that's the only way. It has to become less lethal so it can actually move within the population much easier. So it doesn't kill the host. It keeps them alive to transmit the disease to more people. That's the whole purpose. You know, so yeah, it's just too many crazies out there. Yes. How are you, Fapnado? Oops. Am I your light of the day? Governments need to make detailed free speech laws, which they just need to fucking stop interfering in people's lives to the level that they do. There's a place where regulation is required. You know, traffic. Obviously, you need regulation there. You can't have people just driving anywhere, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of people killed. You know, there are places where, and there are places where they just need to keep their fucking selves out of what I say or what I do and all that. As long as I'm not harming anyone, fuck off is my view towards these people, And I usually say to politicians, I don't want to be like China. And if you like that woke, controlled environment, then fuck off out of this country, I say to those politicians. Anyway. Exactly, Fabi. Yes, they earn a lot from their advertising. And basically, good to see Alex here, mate. Yes, they earn plenty, those arseholes. And I just want to be left alone so I can do my content, my stuff and all that without basically having interference of me or the people who basically patronage my outlet or my channel in that regard. What are your thoughts on what happened with Marek's disease and vaccines? Look, it's for another day. I'm going to leave it for another day, okay? I don't want this basically being removed. That's for another day, mate, another day. I want this to get around so people can know why I'm pissed off and stuff like that. Yes, because these arseholes will check this out. Yes, basically, that's exactly what they want to. They say, oh, you know why they're pissed off about China? I'll tell you why the politicians in America are pissed off about China. It's basically because China's outcompeting them. They're spending more on R&D, and they're actually building up a bigger navy, which basically could potentially threaten their control of the sea. That's basically it. It's like the old British Empire that had control of all the seas. It's the same thing. The US is worried about that. It's more about politics and geopolitics and control of different nations. It's not so much because they're concerned for other reasons. Because they, in their own countries, are doing the same fucking things. They are actually controlling their population. They're bringing in media restriction laws. They're controlling what people say. They're not supporting free speech, So, as I said, and even take a look at how many cases there have been around the world in so-called democracies where the politicians have taken legal action or draconian measures against different groups. So, yeah, I've lost a lot of respect for a number of people of that sort. Not sure if the courts are reasonable these days, Harry. A guy whose business was shut down under lockdown restrictions raised $350,000 to mount a constitutional challenge, case thrown out. Which country? There may be reasons, like in Australia, the actual government has the right to basically declare a state of emergency, and there is no fucking thing you can do. They can take measures in times of war or in times of things like, if there is like an epidemic. It's in our constitution in Australia. So if you're talking about Australia, it's in the constitution. The federal government can basically close borders, can do all sorts of things in a national emergency of war or epidemics. And actually, the government here has violated the constitution in Australia, because basically the constitution says not states, but the federal government should be responsible for these matters. And all states' governments, because our prime minister was actually in Hawaii, basically playing with his, let's say, having a good time, and failed to basically, what they could have done is they could have come back here in their woke way, sealed off the borders, allowed people to come through to Christmas Island or a number of other facilities in Northern Australia, where they would be quarantined temporarily and then allowed into the community. And you wouldn't have to close any state borders down, and you would allow the population to move around. You wouldn't have to do lockdowns or anything, allow the economy to function internally while the external borders were controlled. But that didn't happen, and it still doesn't happen. People are still flying into Melbourne, Sydney, and all that with all these variants. It's bullshit. They destroyed a whole lot of businesses and a whole lot of communities for no good reason. They could have just allowed the damn thing, given everybody vitamin D, allowed the thing to spread throughout the community, and it would have been fine after that. But they did all these stupid things and still are doing these stupid things, which doesn't help anyone, absolutely anyone. Doesn't help the economy, doesn't help the community, and it's not really saving lives. There are plenty of people who are still dying. It's nonsense. It was poorly managed in this country, and there's no freaking difference. The reality is, if you take a look at like Italy, there was more deaths of older people, but there they've got a big geriatric population, and in the north, very low vitamin D status. And they usually die in large numbers every now and then when a respiratory infection comes along, like the flu or whatever. The reality is, if they really want to protect those people, they just should have given them vitamin D. Didn't need to shut down the fucking economy. You know, Mira was back on the legs after 10,000 IUs after the, you know. So it's absolute fucking bullshit in that regard. There's a lot of things that were done wrong. As I said, if you're basically going to shut down the internal borders and do all these things, why shut down? They wouldn't have had to do any lockdowns, no nothing in Australia. They would have just had control of who comes in and quarantined, and you would have had no spread whatsoever. That means the economy wouldn't have been hit. We wouldn't have had these massive, money donations or money giving out, JobKeeper and all that sort of shit. And as a consequence, our, the children and grandchildren of most Australians are going to be paying for this escapade for decades, the debts that they've accumulated. So, yeah, it's fucking crazy, the world, the way it's been run. Yes, and they've basically used a lot of these things. One could think, maybe it was an opportunity to basically curtail some freedoms. One could think. I can't do much, mate. I can't do much. It is what it is. It's what this sort of thing into how it is called a Nuremberg 2.1. Yes, that would be nice. But unfortunately, they're holding the guns, not us. So I don't think we're going to get very far at this stage. All we can do is basically try and actually get out there to more people and get the idea that, we're a blip. That's the problem. We're so small. We're the new China. Yeah, we're creeping slowly in that direction. Canada, yeah. Our laws are way different in this part of the country, so they can do it in Australia and they can do it in New Zealand. New Zealand doesn't even have a constitution. They have no constitutional protection in New Zealand, only the Waitangi Treaty. That's it. So basically politicians there, and it's only one chamber. There's not even a second chamber, like a review chamber, like a Senate or stuff. One single chamber. Whoever controls that can write any fucking law they like. Yes. Bart's got an out. He's an Australian, a dual citizen, an Australian citizen as well. Could always fly back here. We've still got some protection. All they've got is common law protection that can be stripped away very easily with acts of parliament. Is frightening. Very, very frightening. Yeah, look, we for a long time, a lot of us thought that in some of these countries they were the most democratic and free societies and all that. But at the end of the day, a lot of the actual rights don't even exist in the constitution or in law. They only exist as common law rights. That's it, common law rights. They're not even codified. So, parliaments can actually extinguish a number of those common law rights. Yes. But there is a requirement that they actually provide something when you actually extinguish a common law right. What they can do is quite easy. They can codify the right, and do you know what I mean? So they can actually cover that area and then codify it, so they can restrict it through legislation after. So they can actually eliminate the common law right, create a new right, and then regulate it. So it's another way of restricting. So yes, and we've seen that happen in a number of areas. Oh yeah. That's true. It only happens to them. They get quarantined on Christmas Island and elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. There's not many. They've actually been shipped all out now into the Pacific Islands, but those facilities exist. We paid for them. Why not use them? All you'd have to do is basically ship them to those facilities. It'd be easy. You would not, but you know what? The airline companies, exactly. They got political clout, and they couldn't actually do as many flights into those parts, which means that they wouldn't be as profitable. But you know what? Even if you had to pay for the airline business, it would still be less of a debt overall in the long run if you had subsidized them with massive subsidies while this issue was happening. It would still be costing less. They'd still have a lot of domestic flights with no control, because you wouldn't have any. So it wouldn't be as bad for them. You wouldn't have to subsidize. You don't have to subsidize their overseas movements, only the overseas stuff. So it'd be very small, the amount of subsidy. The majority, a lot of people don't realize, is Qantas and Pacific Blue, which is the Virgin Airlines sort of entity, the overseas, which is called Pacific Blue. They are a small entity of the Australian market. The majority, when you look at Emirates and all these other companies, it's all these other big companies, Singapore Airlines and all that coming in, that doing most of the international travel stuff. So basically, when it comes to Qantas and the Pacific Blue, you're only getting a very small segment that you would have to compensate. Not that much. Obviously these international companies will take a hit, but they're not part of the Australian economy, are they? In a sense, so it doesn't really matter. Let their governments basically subsidise them. So basically, it would not affect the economy so much if they had done that from the beginning. It was just an absolute fucking abysmal failure, the way it was actually all run. Now, my personal view is we should have never closed or whatever, just given vitamin D recommendations to populations like we'd, and that would probably have sorted out, and we would have had all herd immunity with very few casualties of, if any. A very small minority of people that are very sick and all that would have died from the flu anyway, normally. I know how it sounds harsh, but that's the reality. You can't basically just run a society for a handful of people. That's just madness, The reality is that, it's just bullshit. Or at least with those people, you could have basically isolated just them, and then, provided some means to support them. So there's a whole lot of things that could have been done very differently. But the reality is, I believe that no restriction should have been put on any of the population whatsoever. Even these people that are in this more dangerous thing, just give them higher doses of vitamin D and basically protect them that way, in an appropriate way. Get their vitamin D levels, which are abysmally low as it is, and that would have saved them anyway, without actually decimating the economy. But if you're going to basically lock things down, that means you're going to prevent people from that. At least just do it at the borders, so you don't affect the rest of the economy, So, I mean, I don't believe in this sort of stuff, but I'm saying that even if you basically somebody who believes in this stuff, it could have been done differently. Even those who believe in lockdowns and all that sort of shit, they could have just done it at a national level isolating the borders, taking people to Christmas Island, isolating them, quarantining them, then bringing them in, wouldn't have affected the rest of the economy. You wouldn't have had to decimate so many small businesses. Small businesses in Australia, in many countries, have been decimated. The only people that have made shitloads of money from this crisis is Amazon, Google, those sort of entities. These assholes that want to run the world, it's they who have made an absolute killing. And they don't even pay their taxes. They try to move them to tax havens. That's the sort of situation that exists, So absolute, abysmal sort of situation that exists. Oh yeah. It doesn't surprise me with Elon Musk. He's a weirdo. He's a fucking weirdo. Yes, you can keep him in the US. We don't want him here. Yes. But Moderna is coming out with mRNA-based flu. Pandora's box is opened. Yes, pretty much. These things we've never used before. Traditional vaccines were tested over 7 years. 7 fucking years. Not 1 year, not 13 months or 6 months or what? 7 fucking years. That's how traditional vaccinations are. And even in that cases, certain people were missed. It's just one of those things, unfortunate. But the reality is these are fast-tracked like buggery, and they come from an area which they've been used in oncology. So mRNAs, DNA, and viral vector stuff have been used in oncology. That means cancer and that related sort of stuff, leukemia or whatever. Those sort of areas where they've been used is basically really fucking, they've been poor success. We heard this great thing. They're going to use mRNAs and viral vector and DNA type vaccines for people with cancer and leukemia and all that. It was all a big flop. It failed miserably, absolutely failed like shit because they were shit. Now they're basically pushing them on us, trying to save us from a respiratory infection. I mean, give us a break. And it wasn't even up until the Delta variant came out, it wasn't even one that actually had a lot of legs to it or utility or moving around in the population. This one is even weaker now. I mean, this probably is as weak as the flu, if not possibly, could be even weaker than the flu, than the worst strains of the flu. It just gets around quicker because, as I said earlier, as virologists know, when a virus actually can move much quicker through a population, it's because it's become less lethal. So it's absolute bullshit. The way they've gone, they got their woke knickers in a knot, and they've gone full woke and crazy about these sort of things. And they're pushing these mRNA, all these experimental shit on people like mad, and people are scared. You can understand people are just ignorant and scared, and lambs to the slaughter, as I say, lambs to the slaughter. Yes. Yeah, worse when you understand all the debts imaginary. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't matter as long as they basically can apply them. Remember, money is made by the bankers out of thin air. It's not real. As long as the rest of us trust it, and there's plenty of woke people out there that trust it, they keep on printing and keep on eroding because basically you have to understand, even if you erode, it's the only reason why we don't feel the erosion of wealth. If you go back 100 years, where most technology was very basic, your productivity was very low. It was about just anemically over 1% over a decade. So it was really, really low. And because the technology was just, less innovative, less advanced and all that. And so any innovation took multiple decades and was very anemic. What's actually happened now is because since the Second World War, after the Second World War, as computerization and all these other automation and robotics and all sorts of systems have come into play, cheap energy as well, all these things have come together and what they've done is they've actually put the economy on steroids in terms of productivity. So this is why the governments have been able to, in the advanced countries, not in the poor countries which don't have high productivity and don't have high technology or stuff like that, like Argentina and stuff like that. Those countries basically just get fucked if they try to print money. But in countries like Australia, New Zealand, and all that, where they've actually where there is a lot of investment in advanced technology and you can actually get high productivity. I mean, the work that we do now in mapping, in the past, you would need like 2 floors worth of people, like, 200 people. And now there's something like 20 odd people that are doing the same work that 200 people were doing when I started working in this field, more than 2 decades ago, So you can understand the productivity has been massive. We can do more with less people. And that productivity means that you're able to mask the erosion of a currency. You can mask it. You can, and that's what's being masked. We are masking our printing presses because productivity, due to technology, is basically pacing in a certain direction. That's why we notice things getting dearer, like energy, like this and that, every year. But it's so slow, we don't notice it enough. But you know what also it does? It means that when you print more money, more of these, the top end, the elites, can actually grab more of that, and they can actually inflate assets. And when they inflate assets, they make everything expensive. That's why you're never going to own anything. They say, you don't have to own anything. You just buy our stuff. Because you can't fucking own anything, because these guys are printing so much, they're literally crowding out everyone. They're inflating assets to such a level, but they can still borrow shitloads in their Ponzi scheme and buy everything up and literally crowd out all the middle classes and impoverish the middle classes and everyone else. And that's what's fucking happening. It's been happening for some time now. We are turning into a rentier capitalist society. That's why they don't give a shit. That's why they decimated with COVID. They decimated all these small businesses. They don't give a shit. You didn't see any of the supermarkets close, did you? Or anybody else close or whatever. But it was all the small businesses that were just basically, told to close. It's been a mad time that we're living through. And we're all being turned into serfs, slowly but surely, to serve our new corporate IT masters. Yes, very much. Like the people that run this platform. G'day, mate. Good to see you. God, you must be early. Must be early there. G'day, zombie. Poo. Nozzle. Ah, yes. Yes, I should have basically get one of those, get toilet paper with a YouTube sign on it and use it. Yes, very appropriate. You're giving me great ideas, zombie. Yeah, our sunshine, definitely. You Queenslanders are so lucky up there. I have to buy my vitamin D. You can just get out there and sunbake. I suspect you're doing your butthole as well, I hope, to get that extra dosage. Ah, yes. Nothing like herd immunity. G'day, lamps. Yes. Vitamin D, exactly. The wonder thing. Unfortunately, the rest of us are basically being told we need to jab ourselves like mad. Had to close his bar for good, our neighbours, yes. Look, I've seen a whole lot of businesses like down in Tasmania which have been basically fucking decimated. But not as bad as on the mainland, like in Victoria and New South Wales. I've heard where they've had more lockdowns than you can poke a stick at. I've heard horror stories over there, far worse than Tasmania. So yeah, not freaking good. Is he? Yes. Oh, that's right. He's from there. Yes. 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 Forgot about that. Yeah, he's from there. Yes, exactly. Like lambs. Bah. Exactly. Printing, as I said, printing money is keeping up with the productivity due to technological advances. It's the reason why we can, you know. So yes, it's the longest going Ponzi scheme, and it's because, yeah, exactly, 100 years US dollar is at 94-year-old now. yeah, 94% like reduction has fallen. Yeah, but yes, as long as you've got productivity through that period, and that was really what made the difference. Yes, yes. So that is what actually makes the absolute difference in that regard. US dollar money stock index exploded in 2020, just like they did in Germany before World War II. Yep, that's true. The difference is that the German currency wasn't a reserve currency because sterling was the reserve currency of the time. And so they had to borrow, where the today's reserve currency is the US dollar. And the US dollar also underpins sterling, Australian dollar, certain countries, Canadian dollar, you know, so there's a bit of that sort of happening that sort of protects certain countries, but not all countries, you know. So there's a bit of that happening as well. Yes, yes, yes. It depends. It doesn't necessarily mean you can basically, if you increase the top end taxable side of things, what you can do is you can crowd out the top end to some extent, and that means then you make things cheaper for the middle class and you grow the middle class like we did in the 50s and 60s, where politicians came from the middle class and supported the middle class. And we had this massive middle class that emerged. And then the bankers took over. Yes. So, and that inflation of the 70s, that really came because of the oil crisis. They used that as an excuse. So that really, because energy, too costly energy, it really fucked the whole system. It was going quite well up until then. You know, you had a very, the wealth classes only had a smaller percentage of the economy, but there was so much wealth within the population, the middle class, that the governments had enough money coming in from those taxes at the corporate end, which could provide free education, all that. Remember, it's us that actually do all the work. They don't do anything. They say, oh, we take risks as investors. That's bullshit. So do soldiers. We don't lavish them with billions of dollars for taking risks. People would still invest if there's money. Demand is what drives. And if you've got a middle class that actually has demand because they've got money in their pockets, they will drive. And that's why they were called the golden years of capitalism. That means there was recycling due to those taxes, which meant that the government could actually build productivity. That means roads, rail, and all that, to basically keep things, commerce and everything cheap. At the same time, provide free education, all that. Remember, the corporates are winning because a more educated population, a healthier population, actually means that they're more productive. So they win from there as well. But so do we. But at the same time, it's a more balanced system. It's not a corrupt system where all the money goes in one direction. So It's a way better system. And back then, both the left and the right were basically in tune on that front, to try and support the middle classes. Now, God, they've given up on the middle classes. They just want them to pay all the actual, all to pay all the taxes and basically pay all the user pays. So everything's user pay, and basically for the corporates to pay nothing. And yes, that is why the middle class were decimated, and that's why people struggle to get anything. The corporates don't care because they say, oh, if the American population doesn't get educated or the Australian population doesn't get educated, we can go to India or to other countries where people are educating their taxpayers are paying to educate some of their workers or people, and we can bring them with work visas to our country and we can actually employ them. Like Silicon Valley's full of Indians. Not that I have anything against Indian people. I've got Indian friends. But what they've done is they've basically, rather than them paying more taxes to educate their own population, who are making their profits in the first place because they're working in their businesses, what they're doing is they're basically going, no, we're not going to pay anything. We'll just basically steal high-quality labor from elsewhere, or we will move our business to that place. They don't give a shit. And they've been allowed to run a rye over the whole population around the world, But that's because we've got a political elite which no longer is connected to the population. In the past, all our politicians came from the population. They were small business people. They were basically workers. They were teachers. They were all sorts of people, police officers, whoever, people that had resigned from the military and joined and became politicians. They were all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life. They were average people. Now that doesn't happen. Now what happens is somebody leaves university, they go and work for a politician, they've never had a job in their life, and then they get educated how to bullshit people, and then they get the new position once that person retires, or there's a spot for them to be placed there. And then these people are like that with the elites and do what their corporate masters tell them. And once they've actually retired from a public service, which is bullshit, they've worked out a number of corporate connections for themselves. Then they end up on all these boards, management boards, and all these corporations and all that, because they can provide influence back to government. And basically they, these corrupt individuals basically then make even a bigger killing. It's a virtuous circle for them. And that is why they're eroding our democracy and limiting our ability to criticize them, to investigate them, while they're saying, oh, this is a national emergency or national restrictions. You can't know this information because awful things could happen. It means we could, so basically they're passing legislation because they don't want us to know, obviously, because they can then do whatever they fucking like. So yes, we have a political class today which is so corrupt and so bad it's beyond a joke. And this is everywhere now. Look, unfortunately, we're to blame to some extent ourselves, because to a large extent we thought we had statesmen, and over time as that whole system got eroded, we basically thought it was safe. Oh yeah, they're doing the right thing, they're doing a public service and all that, but nobody was watching. Nobody was watching while the basically, the change of the guard was happening at that top end. And now we're paying for it. We are fucking paying for it big time. These people are so arrogant, they don't give a shit about us. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, basically, that's basically it. Basically, all that will happen is the government will sell corporate debt to basically, they'll sell government bonds to these corporates in order to get the basic income, to give you a basic income, so you can still keep on buying their products, basically. So you don't need to own anything. They'll be giving you, and then you can buy cheap kibble. You don't have to buy meat. That's for the elites. You'll be buying cheap kibble with that. They want to basically erode our capacity to survive. We could have used this technology to really enable the middle classes to basically be way bigger and freer and have more capacity to develop, to be able to develop. I mean, this fourth technological revolution, where you can have things where you can print things at home or whatever, do things. There are possibilities of a lot of things, but you have to change a lot of the rules. Problem is, the top end don't want to change the rules. What they want to do is they want to use this stuff, and what they'll do is in the future they'll be renting out these units to people. They'll have them in their homes, and they'll be creating piecemeal jobs, and then they'll be working like 12, 16 hours a fucking day. They'll be working like from dusk to dawn, like slaves, like people used to do in the past. If you go to the past, the early industrial revolution, what happened? People used to basically go to the factory, pick up the clothes, go back home, and so like seamstresses or whatever, do all the stuff and then take them back to the factory. Nothing was happening in the factory. They would take them back to the factory. It was like a warehouse type thing. Certain things were done there by specific people. The rest was actually done as piecemeal. And this is what this, this Uber economy and all that, this e-economy and all that, that's all it's about. It's basically, making you a corporate slave, and just with no rights, no health cover, no things like holiday pay, no nothing. You basically work your ass, multiple hours, and get very little piecemeal. And they bullshit to you. If you do this and you're a great innovator, you may become rich one day. Yeah, I can see how many people are becoming rich. It's another one of those pipe dreams. Very few will, like a very small people may get lucky. The majority of people are basically just going to be corporate slaves. That is the reality. So it's an awful, awful future for a lot of young people, and even a lot of people in my sort of age bracket that have lost their jobs and are trying to find their way back to rebuild their lives. It's bloody hard. It's bloody hard, I can tell you. I've heard horror stories myself, so, it's not easy, and it's not getting any better for a lot of people out there. Anyway, it's been a good rant. I'll put it that way. Oh yes, I can see the French coming out in all these people. Yeah, basically. That's probably the only thing that basically means that they can't go full woke and full, authoritarian at this stage, because they're too scared. So they have to manipulate people in controlling them in other ways. It's fear. Have you noticed in the most governments now in most Western countries are using more fear tactics? It's increase the fear. Because the majority of people out there are just ignorant about what's happening. And so when you increase the fear, what happens is you get a compliant population. Fear is a great tool. Many propagandists in the past used the same thing. I mean, just look at every dictator in history. What have they done? They go away, they have show trials, they kill a number of people, they knock them off, and you know what? The rest of them look like that and go, shit, I don't want that to happen to me. And basically that forces them into line. And that is what, today the new fear approach is slightly different. The new fear approach is, what we see in social credits. We've seen it in China, monitoring, like having cameras all over the place and monitoring people's movements. In the future, if you're caught on a camera in a certain place without maybe a mask or whatever, they'll be sending you a bill. They'll be able to, with facial recognition, know exactly who you are, and they'll be able to send you a bill directly. And these are things that are going to become more common. So this insidious, slow creep of authoritarianism is actually starting to happen everywhere. and it's really frightening. You know, I say as a joke to some of my friends, I say some of the third world countries are going to be more safer for some of us because, yeah, they may have some really corrupt politicians or whatever, but you know what? At the same time, they don't have the technology, the capacity to monitor you 24/7 like they do in a lot of advanced countries. You know, they may in the future, but at this stage, I mean, most of these countries are too disorganized to be able to achieve that. So as long as your income is coming from an advanced country, but you don't have to live in it, this is how I'm thinking. I shouldn't be thinking like this. I should want to stay in this country. I should feel that basically my government is respecting my rights. But the reality is, heard the news that people in Singapore get shot for not wearing a mask or not wearing it correctly. That is one of the most authoritarian countries. It's a democracy, actually. It's a one-party democracy. And this is how this one party exists. It's because, yes, they were involved in a lot of advanced development of the economy there. They were very cozy with certain Western countries, especially the US. So the US actually plowed money in Singapore like there was no tomorrow. That's what actually grew Singapore, US money in the beginning. And so the government now is still a very authoritarian government, but basically has the veneer of democracy because they still have elections. The reality is they control the media, they control everything. So it's a bit like, Russian democracy, there is oppositions, but they never get any voice out there they're never heard of. And only that one party gets elected. Same sort of concept. But they are our Western friends and allies. So they're okay. They can be, full authoritarian. But this is what's happening, it's the reality. It's a nice place and it's a nice and really lovely people. I've been there many times. But at the same time, there's a lot of restrictions, let alone, you can't take chewing gum. You try taking chewing gum to Singapore, let alone, they actually monitor the toilets. So let's say you've gone to the toilet and you walk out of the toilet and you don't clean it properly and all that. Do you know they can actually charge you? I'm not kidding you. It's very clean. You're scared to basically chew or not do your crap right or smoking. Yes. But it's over the top the way restrictions are monitoring. But this is what we see in Singapore with all the cameras and all the control and all this severe monitoring is starting to happen in Australia, New Zealand, the US, Canada, the UK, and many other European countries. So it's coming to a country near you, in a sense. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. a friend of mine, he's actually got concerns because he's been there for a while, and now you got to pick your place. That's true. You got to pick your place. It's one reason why I would have never picked that place. There are places and places. Interesting. I may take a bit of a look. Squiz. Yes. Oh, look, people are trying to find places to, that's true in that regard. It's a weird time. It's a really weird time. Even politics are just, there is no like right, left politics or stuff like that. It's really strange times we live, like in the past, you knew where you stood on the political, nowadays I'm more prone when I've got an opportunity to vote for an independent rather than one of the official political parties, because basically you just can't fucking trust them. But, not everybody's got that choice. luckily in where I live, we get a lot of independents are put up on the ballot in the area that I live, which is good. But in other parts, no, definitely not. So it's not an easy option. What do? You could always run yourself. Don't know how successful you'll be, but you could always give it a chance. You never know. You may get lucky one of these days. People may get pissed off with a local member. These things. Sterile, extremely. Yeah, exactly. That is the wildest thing you can do, karaoke. You're right. That's pretty much as far as it goes. You can't even get drunk. You have to be, only tipsy. That's as far as it goes. Tipsy karaoke. Yes, pretty much. Yeah, it's wild and wacky, and yeah, it's weird. Harry, currently a good half of Slav countries are quite good places to live in due to the state of the West. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I know. There's a couple of places, that's right, in the Balkans as well. I mean, at this stage, I'm still 5 years away from retiring. So I'm always... G'day, Anna. Don't be angry. Oh, I'm not angry with you. I'm definitely not angry with you. I'm just pissed off with these clowns on the YouTube here. G'day, mate. How's it going? Yes, exactly. They basically are. They've been basically deleting my comments on different places, and I thought that people were deleting them, and also people's comments that were being put on mine were being removed. I hadn't noticed, because I don't usually look at my notifications. I'll go to a video that I've done, and then I'll do what's new, and then I'll go through those to pick every single one of them, because I don't want to go through lines and lines of notifications, because I subscribe to so many other things and it's too much. But I noticed that one guy was actually being deleted multiple times, and I go, what the hell's going on here? So I actually found out that if there are woke, there's a new woke list, mate, a new woke list. So if certain acronyms, it's not only words, but also acronyms, don't fall within the woke, profile, what they do is they take it out. And so I've been finding out why, probably some people are probably pissed off thinking that I'm basically deleting them when I'm not, but yes, YouTube has gone full woke, and they've put the AI on steroids, and they are basically deleting comments left, right, and center. I mean, it's crazy. And I've found people online. I've just looked at one guy, some old geezer that I showed earlier in the piece, a video, and he was basically saying how, they were using certain acronyms and they were getting all their comments deleted because they were thinking it's, the Hail, the leader of the Nazi thing, HH, which was happy hunting they were using. And so they were basically having all their comments deleted. This is how crazy it's become, and I'm pointing out to people that all they are providing, YouTube is all providing, is nothing different than somebody providing a building, like a company that owns a building and then rents out. In this case, they don't rent, they provide us free usage of the building so they can advertise, and that's how they make their revenue. But at the end of the day, what I do within my business or my channel, is my business. These people in any other industry would be brought to trial. But in this sort of industry, they can get away with blue murder. We created them. They didn't create themselves. Without us creators or our businesses or our charities, in my case, outlets, they would have nothing other than a whole lot of data center and some wires. And that'd be fucking it. But anyway, I know your feelings as well on this subject. They're even just as bad as mine, probably. But yes, exactly. They have no right, Bart. That's exactly it. Do you want to come on? You interested in coming on? I'm, or not, to vent a bit with me. let me know. Or you're just passing through. Yes, the censorship is just becoming absolute crazy in around the world. But social media has just gone full woke, absolutely crazy, and yeah. Yeah, I have to be very careful. What's that? Okay, fair enough. Thanks for being here anyway. Yeah, it's been a bit wild, and I've been quite annoyed, and I had to go through all my sync to see what people got deleted and what got not deleted. And I've come across a number of comments that were put that got deleted, and even mine, I didn't even realize. And I thought that certain people were deleting them, but they weren't, and I'm going, and I don't know all. I know some of the acronyms or some of the words you have to be careful with, but I don't know all of them, and they don't even tell you. So you've got no idea. It's just pot luck, If you hit the wrong thing and the AI thinks that you've said something anti-woke, they delete you. So, and that's what's pretty much been happening. Yep. Okay, that as well. If they added that word as well. This is just bloody crazy. It's just become absolutely crazy on social media at the moment. They are trying to basically force us out, and they're trying to basically make it of what is called an uber woke environment. So if you're not uber woke, they don't want you on YouTube, on Facebook, or any of these things. Good for him. Hopefully we may see some traction there, But it's becoming just bloody crazy, absolutely crazy, They don't have a constitution. They only have the Waitangi Treaty. So governments there can write any regulation they like within reason. There's still basically common law and certain things, but they can regulate that. That's what they do. So yes. Basically, it definitely does mean uber programmed population. Currently most people are unaware of all these things, because most people go onto social media. Most people are, just your regular sort of people. They're ignorant. They have no idea what's happening. And all they do is they'll put, some, little comical thing, or they may put a bit of a link or a like on one of their nieces or nephews and things like that. I was doing that as well, and that's all I was doing as well. And, once I sort of realized that I'd been hoodwinked for a very long time, and, after my health went to shit and all that, and started realizing the sort of society I was really in, so yeah, look, I have actually got a Rockfin account. I do. I haven't put anything on there yet. I should. And I should try and actually see whether I can actually set up also streaming and all that. I need to, yeah. Currently, StreamYard doesn't provide for Rockfin in that regard. So I'm looking at options in that regard, because Tristan's using something different. He's not using StreamYard, and StreamYard, it's convenient for a person like me. But then there's also the option of basically all my other videos, porting them over there. There's, and yeah, it's not an easy thing, Zombie. I know what I would like to do, but I don't want to complicate my life as well. So it's a catch-22 in a sense, if you know what I mean. It's not an easy option. But I need to sort out, my library and Rockfin sort of account and try and get them going, because I can see that the long-term possibilities on YouTube are becoming fucking hard. You know, becoming worse and worse. Yeah, it's a good platform, and it seems like also the streaming seems to be better than Library. Because I've noticed I've actually streamed stuff off Rockfin of Tristan's, and it actually works much better than Library, where you have to go to Odyssey for Library. But Rockfin seems to have a more robust, a better setup for their streaming. I just need to find out some way of whether I can piggy bank, and I'm not going to do it now, but at a later stage, once I build my new computer, I'll probably have more computer power than this one here. Then I'll try and see whether I can actually run some other application, and so I can literally run the one and then switch over in some way. So it's something to investigate at this stage, but it's not something that I'm at that stage where I can actually do a porting across. And then probably the advantage then is I'll be a bit more, let's say, colorful compared to here, where I'm sometimes sort of, I want to say things, but I'm a bit more cautious in a sense, where there it's less of a problem. Okay, I'll do it right now, mate. I just sent that right through to you, mate. Should be getting it. Wake up the rebel. Yeah. Not a problem. I mean, you probably can't now. That's fine. If you can't now, yep. We'll actually do something together. I'll send you a link. A sort of some sort of thing, and we'll do something together. At the moment, I know it's a bit on the later side for you because it's probably 11 o'clock there, nearly 11 o'clock. It's nearly 9 o'clock here, so I know it's a bit on the late side. This was just an impromptu thing for me to vent my spleen, and how pissed off I am about this skullduggery, or the way they've been running the show. So, but yeah, definitely I will. Anyway, guys, it's been a bit over an hour and a half now. I haven't calmed down, but I've at least vented some frustration and in that regard. And yeah, good night, mate, and regards to Pim, and good night to her as well. Yeah, but it needs to be said, and it needs to get around. A lot of people are really basically being pissed off. There's got to be a way to actually deal with these bastards. Not a problem, mate. Not a problem, Alex. Yes. Yeah, I've been getting, and it's also for you guys. It's not only for me. This channel is not, well, I do this for you guys, and so if I'm throttled back and I can't get messages out, if people can't contact me through comments where I can actually reply them and help them, or they can provide information to me and let me know about something, because what Paul was trying to do is also give me a link to something. So, if Paul's listening, please send me an email of your comments, because then what I can do is I can post it under my name and see if that works. I can try it a couple of times and try and prevent them. I've noticed that if I pin the comment, because they've removed my comments on my own channel. I'm not kidding you. My own channel. And I found a way to prevent the AI from unhooking it, from getting rid of it by pinning it. So once you pin it, for some reason, it can't actually get rid of it, because there must be something in the algorithm or something in the code where they can't remove a pinned comment. That's the only way I can keep a pinned comment or a comment that I want to put there, which I shouldn't have to do that on my own channel. It's like me having an outlet, a shop. I put something on the window, and somebody just comes in and literally takes a sign and throws it away each time I put a little sign there. That's exactly. And I'd have to glue the damn thing. That's like pinning, glue the thing on the window so they couldn't remove it. I mean, in any other place, that would be considered a criminal offense, But these guys, God, they're above the law. They can do whatever they like. They can just come in and trash anybody's business, channel, business, same thing, So thanks, Raymond. Yes. Some of these things really stir my blood, get my blood red hot, so yes. Well, let's put it this way. I don't have a personal problem with the AI. It's just a bit of script that somebody wrote. I've got a problem with the people who are putting certain words and certain acronyms into the AI to detect and take out. That's where the problem is. So then that's what pisses me off in that regard. I commented on your Novavax about how the UK is making it difficult to allow this to be available. It disappeared. Doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't friggin' surprise me at all. Bloody crazy, but that's what's happening. I mean, even the Novavax, as I said, all vaccines should go through a 7-year period of testing. But from everything that I've actually reviewed it and looked at it on paper, all the stuff that I've looked at in regards to it, it's probably the safest out there. And I'm not surprised it's not being promoted or pushed or whatever. I'm not surprised at all that nobody's talking about it, even though its results, even against the Delta strain, was something like 96 point something %. That's even better than Pfizer. So, but do you hear anything? And the nice thing is it's localized. It doesn't spread. It's got no replication method to spread. It's localized. They've got an adjunct of a bark. As I said, with a bark, I said maybe there is a 1 in a billion people that are susceptible to that bark reacting adversely. There's always those risks. We've got to be honest about all these things. But the reality is that this is a South American from Chile, the bark that they use as an adjunct. But at the end of the day, it can't react. It can't. They've mutated it, so it can't actually be cleaved off. So when it binds, first of all, it's got the prolines and all that, so it can't bind. It can bind on the receptor, but it can't go. It doesn't go in or anything like that. But the prolines prevent it from sort of going in. The other thing is, and it's probably got an advantage, because by binding on that, it prevents anything going in to the cell through that receptor. So then the immune system can take it out. And it's only a small amount that goes in. That's it. The immune system takes it out, and Bob's your uncle. You get, for at least the spike, that part of the protein, lifetime immunity. Obviously, I've said, if I don't care getting it, if I've got a high vitamin D status and I get it, I will get him lifetime immunity against all the proteins, not only the spike, but in the entire thing in that regard. Yes, I'll have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. That's fine. I've got no problems with that. But as I said, the only reason why I would take it, even though it's the safest on paper, it hasn't been tested for 7 years. That's one issue. But at the same time, compared to all the other stuff that is really experimental and has come out of some crap thing, you know. But unfortunately, we've got policies out there that are really just crazy. Test Novavax, but it's not as good with the variants apparently. With the Delta one, well, with the other variants it is. With the Alpha variant, the original one, it isn't as good. It's 86, I think, %. But that one is actually reducing. It's the more it's the other ones that can spread more easier that are dominating. So they're out. So yeah, but ultimately, you know, as I said, sun, salt, and meat. So when I say sun, that means vitamin D, salt, and meat is really all you need, ultimately. So, but I'm saying that some people may want to hold on to their employment or travel and all this sort of stuff, and that's where they need an option. The safest option is this one. But as I said, I can't guarantee you because it hasn't gone through trials for 7 years. Nothing's gone through trials for 7 years. So all I can say is on paper, it's the safest. So if you have to get something, that's probably the safest to get. Or maintain a good vitamin D status. Look at Mira. She took 3 doses of injectable 110,000 IUs. After the first one, she was up and around. A couple of days later, she was back to normal. You know, she actually asked me because when she got back from Java to Bali, and they've had it's really gone haywire in Bali again. And she said, should I go and do the Sinovax? And I said, no, don't bother. You've got lifetime immunity now. Don't bother. You've had the actual thing. You've had the protection with the vitamin D. Do not bother. You don't need to do anything. And so, you know, anyway, yep. Because of many of them wear masks and get the jab. Oh, well, the world's a strange place nowadays. It is a really strange place. Yes, it's a really weird place. Exactly. Meat and vitamin D. That is precisely it. Oops, I've lost my spot. Yeah, it's taking forever to get. I can't believe how long it's taking compared to the other ones, which were way more fast-tracked. And this one has actually gone through it's far more hoops it's actually had to go through, and it's been tested in more countries than some of the others. And it still hasn't received any approval, you know, in a lot of other parts of the world. So it sort of makes me more confident that on paper it may be it probably is the best one, because they're not pushing it. So I mean, that sounds a bit, but you know. But anyway, the only stuff that I've actually seen is the stuff that they actually did. I'm not, with a lot of testing, I'm not that confident. But the only stuff that I actually saw about lifetime immunity for COVID, and that was based on bone marrow, where they actually, and that's a sort of a risky thing, those sort of tests, but they actually did bone marrow biopsies to basically determine whether these people had lifetime immunity. Now, all the other tests that they do, the sort of the antibody tests and stuff like that, I think you're talking about the ones where people are just the general ones that people are doing. Let me put it this way. There's a lot of concern about how the quality of those, how good they are. So there's a lot of false positives and all sorts of things. So I'm not going to comment on those because a lot of other people have. And at this stage, I personally don't know which ones are better, which ones are not, and sometimes even the same ones can be actually tested when they go to labs. Like the labs can use a different method as well. So it's so varied and all that. I just haven't bothered. To be honest, Angela, I just have not been bothered because my message from my first video, if you go and see my first COVID video, what was the first COVID video saying? Vitamin D, nothing else. It's a respiratory infection. If a respiratory infection is vitamin D, that was the first basically thing that I said. And at the end of the day, who gives a shit whether one test works or doesn't work or whatever, or whether it's woke enough or whether it's not woke enough is irrelevant. As far as I'm concerned, I've looked at the research and all I can say is vitamin D is your best option to protect yourself. I can't recommend up to 10,000 IUs, but I take 10,000 IUs in this COVID environment. That's all I can say. But, a lot of other players are saying take 5, and I've said in the past 5, and that's basically just to cover my ass because a lot of people may not be getting enough retinol. I do get cod liver oil, the Rosetta, the good quality stuff, eggs, have some liver. I balance mine out, and I've got no problems in that regard. The liver can take, if it's a healthy liver, it can store shitloads of retinol. That's been proven with experimental work. So anyone tells you otherwise, it's only when you've got damaged fibrotic liver that could be a problem. So I say to people, well, fix your diet, fix your liver, in that regard. But generally speaking, if you've got a good vitamin D status, you're fine. You're going to be fine. You probably get a lot, it probably end up being like, depends. Some people get something very mild. Some people maybe get a slightly severe cold and recover. But generally speaking, most people will be fine with vitamin D. So I don't think, I don't think people really have to worry. I mean, look, I actually got tested because my cousin came down from the mainland, and I was told by my boss to go in and get tested, so I had no option, So it is what it is. They put a thing on my mouth, and then they put it. Luckily, they don't put it right up now. They just put it only at the base, and but you still get tears in your eyes, and pretty much that was it. It was just a couple of minutes, probably 2-3 minutes, and that was it. And then because I went early enough, I got the result as negative in the late afternoon, 5:30, I think it was. Then I called my boss, told him the results are negative. I'm coming into work. He said, "Fine, come in." It is what it is. If you work for a corporate environment, there are rules. So I do want my pension, and I do want my job currently in the current climate. But as long as we live in a relatively sort of free country, they can't force me to take the jab, so to speak. That they can stick up their fucking ass. Yeah, I think they can't find certain materials. It's materials that, availability because of all the sort of, I mean, if you go off the US coast, and if you go off part of some parts of the world currently, there's a whole lot of containers that are stranded. They can't get enough truck drivers as well. So we've got a lot of seamen were sent back to their countries. A lot of basically truck drivers have been stranded in different parts of different countries, especially large countries like in Europe, the US, and Australia. And what's actually happened is there are bottlenecks. So ships are still waiting to try and get enough containers to make it worthwhile, and also trying to get enough crew, which because of quarantine restrictions, they can't get enough crew, which is really just slowing a lot of things getting moved around. The bark adjunct which they get comes from South America. That's another issue. They can't get enough of it. Is a bit of an issue, and can't get it around the world as well, which is another bloody issue. So there's a couple of those things. So yeah, it is what it is, guys. If you're getting the pressure by your employer, I understand. I mean, that's why I came up with this. I did the research to find out which was the within reasonable on paper the safest, without the 7-year trial period. But at the same time, lamps, I get enough K2. I eat shitloads of brie, Gouda, and all that. So, and liver has K2, and eggs have K2. I've 4 to 6 eggs a day, so I get shitloads of K2 as well. So I'm pretty much fine in balancing all the fat soluble vitamins. So don't worry yourself about me. I'm fine. It's other people that I have concerns when I make certain things, recommending things. So I'm a bit, I have to hold back a bit in that regard. But I say to people, people on the carnivore diet, if you're upping your vitamin D, get more eggs into your diet, get a bit more liver into your diet. I know you're squeamish, some of you, but fucking grow up, grow a spine and start eating a bit of liver, and basically get some K2 into you from brie, Gouda, and camembert, and a few other things. So anyway, but look, it's one of those things. What do you do? It's just the world has gone wild. A lot of it's not only, forget about that company. There's plenty of companies around the world, Nick, that can't actually get components or kit things, and they're laying off people. It's just it's wacky and wild, and a lot of things are not working the way they should. Serious question through Harry. For a friend in a colder country, you mean? Every supplement for C is only 1,000 IUs. Where do you get the 10,000 IUs? iHerb or Amazon sell. I get mine from iHerb. So it's I get one which has got coconut oil in it. So they use coconut oil. They use bovine, bovine gelatin. They use also, so it's not plant-based, it's bovine gelatin. And they also use, what's the other one? Some sort of other thing which comes from a specific type of animal, which is kosher. So it's not, there's no pork in it whatsoever, any pork derivatives, because it's not kosher. So it's also kosher. So if he's Jewish or Muslim, there's not a problem with these ones. And I can get it at 10,000 IUs. So it means just taking one rather than multiple things. Yeah, look, in most outlets, if you go to a chemist, like in Australia, you will not find over 1,000 IUs. You will struggle to find over 1,000 IUs, pretty much. You've got Buckley's chance. You've got to go online to find anything in that regard. Most online stores have up to 5,000 IUs, 2,000 or 5,000, and very few have 10,000 IUs. iHerb has, and Amazon, and there's a couple of others, but that's about it. Just give me a sec. What the hell is it doing? Oh. Okay. Give me a sec. Bear with me for a sec. Where the hell is it? No, that's not it. Okay. Why isn't that coming up? Yeah. Just bear with me. I'll be there in a sec. Yeah. Let's go to that. So, oops, turn that off. Share. Hold on. Find the Amazon one as well. Give me a sec. They can actually pick whichever one they want. It's up to them. Okay. And then I'll share it. So give me a sec. Bear with me. Okay, it's not on the... where the hell is it? Off. Nope. Huh. It's weird. It's not coming on the... Was there before? It is weird. Anyway, I can't find it on the Amazon one. Bugger that. I'll just put it up on the iHerb one. So it's this one here. So it's called Sports Research. Okay. So 10,000 I use, 120. They don't have the 360 at the moment in stock. And as you can see, 10,000 I use. Oops. So as you can see, 10,000 I use is the amount in there, 120. And as you can see, other ingredients, coconut oil, a soft gel capsule. So the capsule is made of kosher gelatin, which means that it's not it's bovine. It's not basically, something that it shouldn't be. There's glycerin from a non-GMO vegetable glycerin and purified water. So basically nothing really innocuous. Obviously, allergen warning, contains tree nuts or coconut, because some people may have a salicylate sensitivity. So if that person has a salicylate sensitivity, they may have to go for something different. So ask them if they've got a salicylate. I don't have a salicylate problem. So pretty much nobody in the Mediterranean has. So it's made with coconut oil, non-GMO ingredients, gluten-free, C, GMP compliant, good manufacturing practice, third-party qualified testing. So it's been tested by sort of a third-party independent. And yeah, so basically it's a pretty good, it's from my own research, it seems like this is what I use. What other people use, do your own research. If you're not happy with what I'm buying, there are other people that may have issues like may need liposomal. That's a different thing altogether. Let's say they've got malabsorption issues, then consider a liposomal option. So that's that one. I'll just put that in there. Canada, Fabnado says he's seen something better. So that's what I do, Lamps. That's what I do. I balance it with retinol and K2. You're late. You're sleeping in today, Lukey. Oops. Okay. Well, enjoy your shift. You can always watch this later. They need a version with an unsafe epitopes removed from the spike. Well, the Novavax actually has a mutation, so it can't be cleaved off. So even though it's a small amount, it can't replicate. It also can't get cleaved off. So the other ones can stick into a cell wall and then get cleaved off, which means that these cleaved off spikes can end up anywhere in the body. And because you've got an mRNA, you've got a mechanism to replicate a lot of these spike proteins. They can actually snap off and end up everywhere, binding to all sorts of tissue. That's a problem. It can take up to 6 months to clear out of your system. There's sort of a long COVID protocol that's being developed by a number of doctors being used for a lot of these future victims of experimental techniques being perpetrated on them. But anyway, that's another story. Yep, the Jarrah has that as well. That's the extra virgin olive oil version. Yeah, you got to take it with a fatty meal as well. That's good. A very good point, Lamps. You got to take it. I usually, like earlier today, I had something very fatty and I took it with that. Yep, that's the one that I get. Really? Yeah, okay. That's weird. Yes. Yeah, we live in a crazy world. We live in a crazy world. Anyway, we definitely live in a very, very crazy world. $6. Oh, that's cheap. You guys get your stuff pretty cheap. Yeah, so pretty much what's the liposomal D. Oops. Just get rid of the, I think they name it slightly different. Yeah, there it is, Aurora. God almighty. Just go into that one. I do not recommend people take a vitamin C thing. Get more than enough from your diet. That's the R-alpha lipoic acid form, isn't it? Yep. The R-alpha lipoic acid. There's the D. There's the D. I knew the D was something. So this comes in 9,000 IUs per serving. And that's the liposomal delivery. So for people that have got malabsorption issues, this is one of your better options in that regard. Purified water, non-GMO soy lecithin, stevia leaf, organic multidextrose, sugar, alcohol sugar, organic cultured dextrose, another alcohol sugar, sodium citrate. So it's got a bit of organic, it's got some sugars, alcohol sugar, some soy lecithin, which, you know, lecithin isn't that bad, but anyway, it's non-GMO, it's something. It's not the perfect preparation, but if you've got malabsorption issues, this may be your only option. So, as I said, there is some, I'm trying to remember the other brand. There is another brand on another website on a British site, but I don't know whether you can access it in the US or Australia. So that's the other problem. Sometimes you can't get what you want. And so you go for the least of all evils in terms of liposomals. This one I've actually checked with a company. Remember, this one I did check, and theirs is about 25 nanometers. So it's very small. It's sub 50. And as long as anything is sub 50, it absorbs very well. And that's important for people with malabsorption issues, which some people are. They do have those sort of problems. G'day, mate. Yes, so that's pretty much on the vitamin D options. As I said, do your research. Look for liposomals. There's a company called, that's right, Quicksilver Vitamin D. Liposomal. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's called Quicksilver. Try Quicksilver Science. There's a vitamin D K2 version. This is nano emulsified. Unfortunately, they're using, they got sunflower lecithin, phosphatidylcholine. They got MK7. Not everyone can convert that. A third of the population can't. So, a lot of the other stuff seems okay, but it's, I mean, if you have to, but this one only has 2,500 IUs. You'd have to take like 4 to get the same, and it's quite pricey at $50. So, yes. So I think I wouldn't actually say that is a good option, in my personal opinion. So that's the Quicksilver Scientific. But I mean, look, you can look for other things, guys. If you've got either yourself or someone else who is still struggling with issues and have got some malabsorption issues, yep. Look for different things. Okay, Lipolife is a company. Okay. Let's see what we get. Lipolife UK. So, oops, come back. So this is a vitamin D3 soy free. That sounds more like it. So, yeah, that's only got 1,000 IUs per. That's that Lipolife, but it's only got 1,000 IUs. There may be other preparations on this website. I'll leave people to sort of search for that sort of stuff themselves, so they can actually work out. Thanks, Nick, but we'll just let, and vegan friendly. Ah, yes, we love vegan friendly. What was that? Quicksilver LO. I've been watching Invisible Man for 2000. They called it, make it him invisible. Yes, nice one. I don't know about I know that Sarah, she, Bart's friend, she really likes the Quicksilver stuff. She knows the owners and all that. I don't know enough about them. I don't recommend things. I just will tell people, this is what I take. It's up to you what you. I don't make recommendations. I don't sponsor things. I don't promote things. I just tell you what to look out for. And there's probably plenty of other companies out there that provide good stuff. You got to do your own research in that regard. My partner currently in North America and works night shifts, so his vitamin D levels low. Yes, low. Yes, make sure he's taking some vitamin D. Liposomal stuff not survive the job. No, this does. The company the one that I actually showed earlier, I've actually checked that company out and their preparation and the type 25 nanometers and also the science behind in terms of getting into the system. So that one's fine, but I can't guarantee you with other liposomal stuff around. So I've got no idea about the other liposomal preparations. All I can say is the one with the Quicksilver science. That one is that lady that Bart's interviewed in the past, I've got her as a featured channel on mine, Sarah, and she basically swears by them. But I can't give a recommendation of my own because I haven't researched the company. It's in Britain, but if you're living in Britain, contact her and ask her questions, because I can't answer those questions. I don't know what the liposomal, because there are differences, and if the liposomals are larger than 50 nanometers, they don't absorb as well. And when they get over 150, they don't absorb at all. And some question whether it's even useful to get stuff that's around the 100. So I only recommend sub 50 nanometers. Anything that's higher than 50 nanometers, I don't waste my time. So that one that I actually showed on iHerb, the Nutra, whatever it's called, Aurora Nutrition, Nutrascience, Aurora Nutrascience, that liposomal, I'll put it in the link right now. I'll put it there. There it is, that one. That one, I've actually contacted the company and I've done a background test checking on them. So that one, I can say, is a good liposomal form for people with malabsorption issues. The rest, I got no fucking idea because I haven't done the research and I'm not prepared to do it, because I just needed to find for one person who had malabsorption issues and I needed to find a solution for them. Beyond that, yeah, I'm not going to search every single fucking company under the sun. I can only tell you what I've researched and what I've used. And beyond that, you're on your own. This product is unavailable in your region. We apologize for the inconvenience. Check out some other product you might like below. I heard what you're... Yeah. Oh, well, you know. Some things are not available in the Netherlands, Alex. It's just the way it is. Oh, I heard the new YouTube. You could always don't. You can always use a yes, you know what I mean. An ISP unblocker or basically something to circumvent. No, that's not going to work because it's not going to get mailed to you. And don't mail it to me. Yes. Yeah, it's for most people, you know, the general stuff, that's fine. This liposomal stuff is for people with malabsorption issues. And yes, nanometers, you know, as, you know, millimeters, it's micrometers, you know, the Greek M with the, sorry, not that, nanometers, you know, the sort of stuff that they actually create chips with. So, you know, the chip sizes, you know, in computer chips, which are, you know, 3 nanometers or whatever across certain of the circuitry. Well, that's what we're talking about, nanometers in those terms. So it's sub 50, it has to be. If it's above 50, don't bother. If it's sub 50, it's fine. So that one, Aurora Nutrascience, is sub 50. It's 25. Look, in the manufacturing system, you can't get 100% all the stuff 25. So what they are, so they were actually able to show me their, you know, and say it's within 25, which means that some could be 27, some could be 24, 23. It's around, on average, it's around 25. The majority of the actual, you know, the sort of the size of the particle, of the lipid particle that actually has inside the actual vitamin D. So, but they can guarantee that on average, it is around the 25 nanometers. So, and which means that, you know, you can get really good absorption. Actually, some of it will even get absorbed through the oral type area. So, because it's that small, and that's good. That's what you want. G'day, Dom. Yes, it's me. I was bitching earlier about YouTube here and their nonsense and stuff that they've been doing to me and others that leave comments and stuff like that. So it was all about that. And then we got on to the current epidemic, and yes, the current epidemic and some other politics stuff. It's been quite entertaining. You've missed a lot, you know. So, yes. And that's been about it. It wouldn't matter how big or small it is if that layer of lipophosphates or not fall apart in the digestive juices. I expect some of that would recombine later to account for any benefits. We can only go on basically there. One, the tests that have been done on liposomal preparations. And most of them, if they are below 50 nanometers, they have very good absorption. It's if they're above that they have questionable absorption. So that's pretty much it in that regard. Fair enough. Fair enough. You had some fun then. Hope you didn't overdo it. Is this alive? No. Hey, it's only been going for 2.5 hours. You know, if it was a Eurasian live stream, it would be 6 hours, mate. You come to the wrong one. Thanks, Harry. Autoimmune issues have so malabsorption issues. Yes, they do. They do. I don't know. Absolutely don't know about the topical application type. I suspect if they are, depending on what size, to penetrate through tissue, I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. I haven't looked into it. Topical vitamin D supplementation, I have not looked into it. So, and if I haven't done research on something, I just basically say, I don't know. And I don't know truly. So, can't help you there. All I can say is do your own research. Because you've got other options. You've got for malabsorption issues, you've got liposomal ones. For non-malabsorption issues like the rest of us, just take a regular good quality supplement like the one that I get. So it's easy as that. Some people at the wedding have health conditions but too scared to take the vaccine. I said they should reconsider the Novavax, I hope. Yes, just the Novavax. We don't want them taking anything else. It's a question of whether we can get it in, or keep up their vitamin D. Tell them to keep up their vitamin D. That's the best thing they can do. Recent vitamin D3 tests, 41 nanograms per milliliter. Irish Summer and 5,000 IU supplements. Is 90 a reasonable target? I think Lukey got up to, he did a bit of supplementation, then he did a lot of sunbaking. He got up to, I think, 89. Did he get up to 8? I think he actually got the high normal really quite high. Is it possible? Yep. Put in a bit of an effort. Angela, you probably could. Does it work 100%? Which one are we talking about? The liposomal or something different, a Fapnado? Ah, yes. Nothing like an Irish wedding. Ah, you did well, up to 63. Ah, yes, exactly. Look, most people, I try to maximize my sun exposure, and, through winter, through late autumn, early spring, I try to keep my supplements up. I do live in Tasmania, which is, from here and below, it's basically Antarctica. So it can get chilly. I mean, we've had a couple of nights recently been down to 2 and 3 degrees. So it's been a bit on the fresh side, you could say. So ease. Only 50, yes, restrictions at the wedding. No music, no dancing, finished early. Oh, okay. That's a bit of a anticlimax, bit of a not. I get sun on my skin minimum 2 hours a day, more on the weekend. Sounds good. You're in Queensland. These damn Queensland people always bragging how much sun they get. Damn annoying to us Tasmanians. Stop bragging, zombie. Damn Queenslanders. Always bragging about how much sun they get. What does a 24 OH or 24-25 ratio mean? 20, that's a storage. It's the storage type. So it's called 25OHD3, and then the other one is 125OHD or D3. So it's just basically different forms. One has to go through the liver to be converted to the 25OHD, which is a storage form of vitamin D. And the other one is the active form. So you only get about 3% as free, what is called free vitamin D. And that flows through the system and actually gets on a number of enzymes where they've got receptor sites for it. So when because normally when you'd be outdoors for quite a few hours, so you'd be getting a certain proportion of that on right through the whole day. This is how humans would have in the past, and they would have got smaller bits in that regard. When you get a supplement, you really just saturate the system. It's sort of you end up with more vitamin D also floating around in the blood for some time before it can be converted, because there's a rate limiting, capacity for the body to convert. And that's why when you get it from the skin, it seeps in much slower. It gets converted at a rate limiting rate. And so, yeah, it's a bit different. I tend to, if somebody comes to me and says, Harry, I've got, prostate cancer, I've got basically, breast cancer or something like that, I will tend to steer them towards higher doses of vitamin D, because I'd like to saturate that tissue, because there is, enzymes that regulate growth in those areas that are controlled by vitamin D. So this is why there's strong association between vitamin D and anti-cancer. So yes, very important to have a good vitamin D status. So as I've said to people, get out there and enjoy the sun. I am not able to order more than 2,500 I use on iHerb. What? Really? Oh, fuck the EU. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. They've I've actually heard about that because some of my relatives in Greece, they can't either because I was trying to get with my brother-in-law. Yeah, I always forget. Yeah, you're another EU victim, like my relatives in Greece. Yes, you're another EU victim, Alex. Yes, and so you've got certain restrictions where the Irish can get away, circumvent that because they actually buy the iHerb is actually in the UK. So this is how they get around with it because there's no restrictions in the UK. So they can order it from the UK and it gets sent to them. So the Irish are lucky in that regard. But if the Irish were to go and try and get it from the EU site, which I'm not sure which country it is in the EU, based, then in euros. So I don't know whether you could try the UK site and see if you can actually get it sent to you from the UK site, whether they would do that or not. Don't know. It's always an option to try out. Yeah, it's all these damn restrictions continuously just drive me up the bloody wall. Yeah. What's the best detox from all the winning carbs? Let me put it this way. There's too many. Okay. Riboflavin, really important. B vitamins are the must. Get extra thiamine, B1. You definitely need a bit of that because you'll be using a lot of that. What's the other one? For your liver, I'd say basically choline to export the fat out of the fucking liver. Do we have a few eggs for that? You've been a bad boy, Dom. Yes. Yes. There's, yes. Do a bit of exercise to deplete glycogen. So go around the block a couple of times, deplete some glycogen so you can put it away to disengage the Randall cycle. What can I say? That's it. Or that. He wants to do it a bit faster. Felt like a German wedding. Any Germans here? Gonna get yourself into trouble. And people behaving. Oh, okay. Oh, that you mean that? Yes. That's true. That is true. Actually, I'll be honest with you. I've had some. When I was in Germany in 2006, I interacted with some German people. I can tell you they weren't as well behaved and weren't as quiet. So I think that is a general sort of a generalization that we make about the Germans. They're not as quiet and they're not as behaved. I can tell you from personal experience. But I did get a shock. I was in a shower. This was because we were going through Germany in different places. We were basically in sort of a backpackers type thing. I had this tall German bird just right next to me in the shower, and I'm just going, you'd never get this in Australia. And I'm going, she was just washing herself like there was no, and I go, okay, who cares? So that was an interesting experience, let's put it that way. We're sunning our buttholes. Oh, God. What can I say? What can I say? Okay. Have they? What is wrong with these people? What is absolutely wrong with these people that restricting? They drive me up the wall, Nick. They drive me up the wall. Oh, God. Try German Amazon. Okay, they have higher doses. There you go. Lamps is on the money there. Australia makes me get a doctor's prescription for stronger supplements, but they don't stop us from importing or buying stuff online. Exactly. That's how crazy it is. You cannot find one I've been to a whole lot of different, like I actually had to basically take half my stash and give Dad, some stuff. This was a while back. And that the whole reason for that was I've ordered some new stuff now for him and me. And the only reason for that is because you can't find it. You go to one pharmacy after another pharmacy after another pharmacy. They're all 1,000 IUs. There's nothing, not even 2,000 IUs you can't find in Tasmania. Not in one pharmacy. I've tried a lot of them in Hobart, and I can tell you it's a joke. So I had to literally go and actually try and find something. So yes, in that regard. Please translate. I can't speak Dutch. I hope this is a translation. I'm going outside, Harry. Have a nice evening. Thanks, mate. NEC is also the blacklist in the US. I've heard that. It's a crazy, crazy world. I think you can still get it in some states. I think somebody told me you can still get it in some states. It's not everywhere. So, because states do have quite a few state rights, so it's much more difficult. But there are, it's pretty much, that's bullshit. In, deranged people with major health issues and all that, possibly. It takes, even at high doses like 100,000 IUs, it takes months and months and months to get basically high levels of calcification and stuff like that. And that's in people who don't take vitamin K2 or retinol at the same time to balance things out. So they are usually very depleted. And that's the other thing that can actually happen. The potential risk is for depletion of those other vitamins because of the competition between vitamin D and retinol. So there can be a sort of, it seems to be a bit of a competition there between the two. And so but if you're on an ancestral diet, traditionally you would have been, as I said, sun, salt and meat. You'd be getting basically the retinol from the animal foods. You'd be getting from the sun. I usually say, what levels would I, maximum take? It's probably about 20,000 IUs. Because if you're in the sun for quite a few hours, you can get up to 20,000 IUs in a day. You can get between 10,000 and 20,000 IUs in general, depending on your skin pigmentation and all that sort of stuff. So I've always gone for the sort of 10,000. And the reason for that is basically it's within the physiological capacity of the human body if it's in a natural environment, So, below that or above that, slightly above that isn't a big issue. Massively above that for a very long time may be an issue. But generally speaking, to anybody to say that 10,000 IUs is dangerous, or even 20,000 IUs is dangerous, is just crazy, because you can get that amount if you're out in the sun for quite a few hours. So that's how I base it. I base it, what could I get if I was actually in the sun for many hours? Now, obviously, people, even in a tribal society, would never be exposed to those sort of levels all year round, all the time. And so that's why I've sort of averaged it out and said, between 5 and 10 in most cases. When I go to 10, I usually eat more retinol foods and more K2 foods. Traditionally, I did because I was just at around 5. It's just because of the COVID issue, I went up to 10. And the key reason is, if I was to get it, I don't want to become too sick, basically. And I've noticed since I've been on 10, I'm not getting all these viral colds or whatever. So it's actually been much better. So I tend, but I can't recommend it. As I said, I can only say this is what I take, in a sense. It's a funny world where I can say this is how much I take, per day, 10,000 IUs, but I can't recommend it to you people, and I can only recommend at most up to 5,000 IUs. So that's the reality we live in. It's a crazy world. But as I said, I mean, there are cases where there are people that have got like massive, they've got a lot of fat, let's put it that, too much fat and all that. And even if you take 100,000 IUs, you may have to take 100,000 IUs a couple of times to try and get your vitamin D levels to go up a bit. So yeah, it can be a problem for some people. Obviously, these people, if they start losing weight, like they're fasting or go low carb and start like that, those people I usually recommend do not take any vitamin D or retinol products or anything, or even, try to minimize the retinol and just stick to like a steak-only diet. Why? Because they're going to be releasing a lot of fat-soluble vitamins into their bloodstream. That's the reality, so... which is fine if you're a tribal person who had a small amounts of fat storage, small amount of fat, which actually stores some of these fat soluble vitamins. And through the winter, as you're losing weight because you're eating into your fat stores because you didn't have a supermarket or 24/7, you would be releasing some of this vitamin D into your bloodstream, plus you would be basically getting from some of the foods and all that. And that's how our tribal ancestors had their vitamin D good levels, even in winter. Unfortunately, now we're engaging the Randall cycle, so we can't access fat in winter. So we become more depleted than normally, and we don't eat foods that are rich in vitamin D. So you can actually see that our relationship with planet Earth has been severed in the traditional way. We lived on planet Earth. We basically we got a lot of vitamin D. Then we engaged the Randall cycle through those later summer, early autumn months. We were still getting a lot of vitamin D that was being stored in our fat cells as they grew. And then as we had limited food available in the winter periods and leaner, we didn't get enough. What was happening is leaner times through that winter period, we were basically releasing more of our fat stored from engaging the Randall cycle in that period, and we were becoming thinner. And as we were becoming thinner before, the next summer and warmer periods when there was going to be more food available, we also were releasing vitamin D from our storages. Plus retinol, vitamin D, K2, all these were being released. It worked beautifully. And then we created civilization, and we really messed it up for us in terms of ancestral connection. And then the modern world, we really fucked it up. So that's why you got to be I can understand where they're coming from. You've got to be very careful with these things when it comes to, and that's why I always keep reminding people, if you're losing weight, you shouldn't be supplementing. And then I usually say to them, if you're not certain what your levels are, go and get yourself checked out. Do you have enough vitamin D in your stores? Maybe you were depleted and never had a lot of vitamin D in your fat stores. So even though you're losing weight, you're not getting much in the bloodstream. So that's why I say to people, go and get yourself checked out and find out where your levels are. I can't predict them over the web. It just doesn't work like that. So yeah, it's a complicated picture. You've got to, at the end of the day, take responsibility for your own body, and you've got to basically, look at these things. I can't basically, go out there and do it for you. It's not going to happen. I don't have a lab back here to basically test you guys to find out whether your vitamin D levels are or stuff like that. It's, just not going to happen. Brother took Moderna vaccine. That was very smart of him. Dom got second dose last Friday, had no reaction at all. He had been taking 10,000 IUs a day for a few months beforehand. Is there anything else he can do to protect himself? Ivermectin as well to prevent. So keep the vitamin D levels up and take ivermectin as well if you can get access to it, because that also helps. If you've got a strong immune system with vitamin D, it may clear out this sort of stuff so quickly that it may not be able to replicate enough to basically cause long COVID symptoms. Because that's what it is. It's the low vitamin D status that people have. They get the virus and then they end up, even though they survive, they end up with this long COVID type syndrome. And it's the same thing taking these vaccines, because they have a replication thing and they push out so much spike protein all over the place, like parts of the virus, but they replicate like mad. When you've got good vitamin D status, it suppresses the overexpression of this and brings it under control much faster. As a consequence, yes, you get the immunity, but at the same time, you don't get a lot of the consequences. Because if you've got low vitamin D status, you can get long COVID symptoms, bad symptoms and all that, as a consequence. So it's not only the mRNA types and viral vector, because they work very similar, like, with replication like the virus does. The only difference, they've got a few other issues with them in that regard, the way the spikes get broken off, gets cleaved off and, stuff like that. But generally speaking, there are similar issues. But if you've got good vitamin D status, you can actually mitigate a lot of the side effect issues in that regard. So yes, tell him to keep the vitamin D levels up and try and take, something like ivermectin if you can get access to it, because that's pretty good as well for long COVID symptoms. So yes, couldn't wait for the Novavax. Anyway, I don't know his circumstances. Maybe he was being pressured by his work environment. That's the biggest problem for a lot of people. I'm just keeping my mouth shut at work so it doesn't become an issue. Yeah, it's becoming hard for a lot of people. I'm trying to hide. Good for you. Actually, your doctor prescribing that level. It's a strange thing for a doctor to do in this time, in this world. I was about to mention that taurine is next. Yes, nothing like taurine. Get the ball into you. Yes, llama. Get the ball into you. G'day, Honest. Good to see you. Good morning. I just woke up. You're late. Just joking. I'll have to rewatch it. Yeah, I'm about to pull the plug shortly. We're nearly 3 hours going. So, yes. Yeah, look, I've been having a lot of problems, and some of my subscribers have been leaving comments and they've been getting deleted, and I wasn't really aware of them. And Paul, one of the guys recently, that the reason why I made this video, I noticed he actually made 3 attempts to put the same thing. So he was persistent, but he failed all 3 times. But at least it actually made me aware of what the hell's happening. So yeah, we've been talking about a whole lot of other things as well, about free speech and other politics and stuff like that. And Bart dropped in as well. And so Bart and me are he's asked me to send him a video, and a link, and we're going to do some collaboration together in order to basically talk about some of this stuff. So there'll be more to happen, and I've got a few ideas. I'm trying to hope that some of these ideas can get out where some others can try and push for, the using some of the laws that exist currently against these, these sort of nasty authoritarian social media barons. So yes, there'll be more to come. Let's put it that way, Honest. only ivermectin available is for cattle or horses. Yes, for humans. Yes, that is for humans, Nick. And the question is whether you can get it in the country you're in. That's not always possible. Most of the websites for that I've found are either in South America or some Eastern European countries and stuff like that. So it's not as easy to get, which is quite fucking annoying. I think there are a couple of states in the US that you can get it in now, but I can't remember which. Somebody told me ages ago, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that person was from one of the southern states of the US, but I can't remember whether it was Texas, New Mexico, or one of the other states. Somewhere in the south, I think, of the US, close to the I can't even remember whether he went across to Mexico to get it or not. Can't remember now. So it's a while. But yes. Yeah, it's crazy to try and get certain things. It's just the way it is. It's a really wacky world that we live in, and it's I was sort of trying to get this, and I was sort of desperate like mad, and even in Indonesia, I actually, when Mira came down with COVID, I mean, I just went crazy. I contacted people in different parts in Jakarta and Surabaya and all sorts of areas. I'm trying to search all these websites, these Indonesian websites. I found a couple. I sent Mira and she contacted them, actually phoned them, and they, for whatever reason, they couldn't get the stuff to her. They couldn't deliver to her locality for whatever bloody reason. So yeah, I was panicking like mad trying to find solutions at the time. It's not easy. If you can do it beforehand, much better. But yes, eventually she was able to find local pharmacists with also vitamin D, and then made sure she got some injectable. So yeah, it was a racing around. It felt like a race against time. You know, it was extremely stressful time for me anyway. That week was, let's say I had a lot of relief after that. My stress levels would have been through the roof at that time. G'day, Jared. Good to see you, mate. You can find it in products low percentage, but for the full thing, not available because it has not gone through approval yet. Fair enough. So you're probably talking about the 3 milligram ones. Yeah, I've seen those. Most of them are the human, or those ones are 3 milligram ones, where the animal ones you can get up to 12 or whatever. I go, well, animal ones are also, we're all mammals, but you know, I go, yeah. I've said to people, go for the animal ones if you can't get the human ones. I mean, there's no bloody difference. They're still, you know, sometimes animals are more valued than humans, and they've got less fillers and less things that can cause side effects because animals cost money, and they don't want them animals to have issues. Available in the UK, but very expensive. Okay. Yeah, look at a couple of places that I've come across. It's very bloody expensive. South America, very cheap. Consequences, none of the South American companies export to Australia. None. They may export to the North America, but not to Australia. So yeah, it's literally impossible to get from South America to Australia. So that's one avenue. There's another option. We could always ask Lukey to send us from Brazil. You know, it's actually, I will ask Luke. Next time I've got him on the show, on the live stream, I'll actually ask him, because he's probably gone now to work. So I'll actually ask him whether he is able to, and I don't mind basically just sending him some money and he can post it to me. So at least I've got some in that regard. But yes, it's pretty hard to get in any other place. And I'll just tell you to put it into plain packaging, because I've had cases where I actually tried to get a peptide, which is a sort of a testosterone boosting peptide, and basically got picked up by Australian Customs and I never got it. Luckily, the person from the US, from the Amazon person, actually gave me my money back. But yeah, I basically could not get it. It was quite annoying, you know. So, and it's not, you know, we're not talking about like any illegal substance, just a substance that you could actually get from a doctor if they recommended it, but it's not something which basically has, you know, any deleterious effects or stuff like that. It's not like, you know, like the regular stuff that the pharmaceutical companies provide. It's actually just one of those things that has just improves your status as an older person. So, but yes, it was primarily for my dad, but at the same time, shit happens. I just couldn't get it. So I'm trying some other herbal stuff for dad in that regard. It's just really hard to get things like that. And the only thing his doctor will prescribe him is certain things that are basically, I'm going, no, dad, nope, nothing like that. Yeah. So I'm, because he asked me, he said, how can I make myself a bit younger? And I said, we could try this peptide, but yes, couldn't get it. It's one of those things. Shit happens. So dad's my volunteer experimental animal. So if it works on him, I've got hope in when I become an old man like him. You'll try anything. I'm just joking. I say that to my friends, and sometimes I get the filthiest looks. You do what with your dad? I'm only giving him things that I know are safe. I'm not giving him anything that I know that's going to put him at risk. You know, at the end of the day, he wants to become, you know, a super granddad. Anyway. You're welcome, mate. Yeah. Yes. Look, my sisters, when they, I think they've got more respect for they do contact me when they've got issues. How do I do this or that? In the past, I didn't have the same, but once I sorted out a number of issues in the family, including, you know, the first one was actually the big one, which is when my younger sister had asthma, and I eliminated it for her. And from there on, and, you know, a few other things from my other sister, and then immediately they realized, oh shit, he actually knows something. And so, and now they do listen, all of them, you know, because they've seen improvements. Dad's sarcopenia turned around in the last 10 years. His mental faculties and all that have improved. A lot of things have improved because he was declining in some areas, and that's all stopped. He feels stronger. He feels more confident. He feels more happier in life and stuff like that. So, you know, they're taking things on board, which is good. They're seeing me improve over the last decade, and they're taking things on board. And so, yeah, it's sort of all pretty good in that regard. And many of my friends as well have jumped on and adopted some of my strategies and thinking. Yeah, it's a good thing, a good feeling in that regard. But you know, in other parts, in other parts of the world, you know, for other people and all that, I always say to them when they've had issues with their families and all that. I always say, be a bit patient. And sometimes you'll be the flag bearer. They'll see you doing things and improving yourself. And, you may have given them a hint and say, well, why don't you check this out or do this or that, and leave it at that. Then let them try a bit. And sometimes they sort of eventually things start improving. They go, oh, maybe he knows something that I don't know. And they may ask for more things and all that. They may be more willing to listen. So sometimes I find that slow, you can't force people. And what Lamp said there, leading by example is the best way. Exactly. That is pretty much it. Very much it. So, and it takes time. We live in a culture where we've all been brainwashed from birth on dietary things, on lifestyle things and all that. And the majority of the people out there are completely blasé and completely unaware of what's been done to them and how they've been deceived. And it's only when they get into a bit of a crisis situation and they start becoming more inquisitive, more willing to listen, to ask and all that. That's when they're more open. Obviously, by that stage, they're far more damaged, and it's unfortunate. And it just takes, but, over time, what happens is, even though one person gets to that point of getting damaged, the people around that person, like their kids, their husband or wife or others, their friends and all that, when they see that they have adopted some changes and things turn around for them or improve slightly even, they'll say, maybe there's something into this. And, they'll be more open to other ideas, other suggestions. G'day, Sarah. And try some other things, So, very, very important in that regard. So many people don't want to change. They don't care. I've seen this with many. They would rather suffer than try the changes. A lot of them actually, Nick, it's not that they don't care. I don't think it's that they do care about themselves and their situation, but they are so caught up in what, the expert, the doctor or whatever. And I mean, this is how funny it is. You could have somebody morbidly obese, a doctor, sitting on the other side telling you to lower your fat and increase your carbs. That's the sort of crazy disconnect that we live in. That's the cognitive dissonance is so strong. And a lot of people, especially my generation or older, still respect the expert doctor or whatever. What they're not aware of is how much these professions have been corrupted by the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and all these sort of people. And I call them misanthropists, like Bart does, and I call them basically criminals, because that's what they are. From I think my earliest chats with Bart and my conversations with him, I called them outright criminals, because that's what I've always thought they were, because basically, let me put it this way. When you ask for an expert opinion, when somebody comes to me and says, Harry, can you fix my computer? I will do the best job to fix that computer. And I will do my research to know exactly what is required to make sure that computer works properly. If somebody comes to me in regards to mapping issues, I will produce the best product that I can based on the best expertise that I have in that area. That's what you're supposed to do. Not do a dodgy job, not do something substandard, not do something. But when you've got an area that's been completely and utterly upended and corrupted, you go back to the 1960s and 1950s, you went to a doctor and you're overweight, they just tell you cut out the sugars and carbs, because that was the traditional way. Doctors knew, they knew that you cut back carbs, you lost the weight. They knew that way back from antiquity. In antiquity, they used to recommend for people with diabetes or people who were overweight, they used to recommend you remove the carbohydrates. They knew way back then. It's not something new now. You know, this knowledge has been known quite well. But what happened was, after the Second World War, over time, people like Ansel Keys, that criminal, and many others, the food industry interlinked. You have to understand, Ansel Keys was involved with creating K rations for the military. What he was able to do through these organizations is link up the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, and the military industrial complex. And the rest is history. These groups got together. That's how the food industry got so many subsidies for themselves. That's how they were able to push specific things. That's how these groups became very powerful and very well funded. And they pushed an agenda and basically just steamrolled over everyone. Ansel Keys was a big fucking bully anyway. And they changed the entire complexion. That's when all these guidelines and rules came in. Before that, doctors were basically, you became a doctor, and then you went and did your work. And most doctors, through trial and error, realized certain things work, certain things don't work. And they developed their own protocols. So all doctors around the world used to have variations. They weren't identical. They didn't follow identical guidelines. They didn't follow. Depending on their life experiences, depending on what worked and what didn't, the interaction with what sort of patients, they had different varying approaches and different ideas about what works and what doesn't. But when you basically have the government intruding, setting down regulations on what is the food guidelines, what is to be eaten and what isn't, what pharmaceutical to be used or what isn't, drug or whatever, medication or whatever. And when there's strong government regulation on these professions, what happens is then big money can corrupt and control these professions. And that's what's happened. The medical profession from an independent profession, the pharmaceutical profession and all these have become highly regulated, highly controlled. And that's where a lot of this sort of corrupt money has come in and upended and changed the complexion of these areas. Where in the past, doctors basically did the best for their patients. They weren't regulated. Now doctors are too scared because they've got like a tick list. These are the guidelines. If I don't follow the guidelines, I lose my job. I lose my business. I can get shut down. And that's what's actually radically changed. And it sort of started in the 70s, and then through the 80s got worse, and the 90s in particular really got worse. And in the last couple of two or three decades, it's really just been an absolute fucking crazy system. And these industry organizations run it. They run the medical establishment, they run the pharmaceutical establishment, they run the food industry. And it's all about profits and power and nothing about human health or whatever. And that's what's really fucking happened. And that's why these professions no longer are professions of excellence. See, in science, you still, like somebody who's a physicist, they're still trying to find out the best way to build something or create something or understand something. An engineer, the same thing. Because if you do it the best way, you're going to basically win the contract and make the money. In those sort of professions, it's the complete opposite. In the food industry, you don't want people basically, you want to addict people to food because that's the only way you can make more money. You want to basically make people sick so you can sell them more drugs. So you can actually see that the reverse is the motive. The motivation is the reverse. If I can make everybody healthy, well, nobody's going to come to me. If I can basically, if everybody is eating properly and all that, nobody's going to have to go to a gym. Nobody's having to go to a dietitian. Nobody's having to go to any of these sort of things. All these professions wouldn't exist. All these industries wouldn't exist. They've got good motivation to basically muddy the waters, deceive people in order to keep the thing going. So what they do is they do junk research. We call it epidemiology. I call it junk. I call it, misanthropic research and junk criminal research. But that's what they do. They do this junk research in order to basically muddy the waters as much as possible, to basically push the motive, it's all calories. And these people are just basically irresponsible, to put the onus on the individual person. And you take a look, even in the US, where that is even more pronounced. They use people's individualism against them in the US. So you don't get the same level, because in Europe, you don't have the same level of individualism. You do have it in Greece, but you don't have it in most other European countries. And there it's much harder. There they have to be a bit more tactful and skillful. But in the US, they just say, oh, yeah, it's your choice. You make the choice. You made a bad choice. And so people accepted that because it's part of the culture there. And that's how they can really manipulate them. They use their own mindset or their own cultural mindset against them. And that's what they've done in the US. And that's why they've grown so big in the US, because of that. They've used that sort of individualism to be worked against them, to tell them, it's your responsibility, not the corporates. But the reality is most people have got no capacity to basically go and educate themselves in biophysics, physiology, all these areas to really know what's happening. So they expect the expert that they are paying to do the right thing. So when somebody comes to me to fix their computer, or me to fix their car, or they expect me as a professional to do my job professionally, not to do it in a way where it works against them. But in these other professions, that's what's happening. And that is why I understand why people are victims of this. They are victims because they expect, like in all other walks of life, they expect professionalism, that somebody will do the right thing. If I take my car to a mechanic, he'll fix my car. And if he doesn't fucking fix my car, I won't go to that person again. I'll give him a bad mark. But they don't do that with a doctor. They don't do that with a food company. Why? Because they're told these are the experts and they know what they're talking about, and you should just comply. And people have fallen for this. And the majority of people fall into that line. If you ask any person out there, they'll tell you a calorie is a calorie, and you're eating wrong. You're eating too many calories, they'll tell you. They won't tell you, you're eating the wrong foods. They'll tell you you're eating too many calories. 90% plus of the people out there basically believe in calories and believe that the person eating the excess calories is the person. He's a sloth, lazy person. He's all these sort of things, all the regular sort of stuff that we've heard. You're fighting against that. The media every day tells you that you're eating too many calories. Your doctor tells you. The pharmaceutical companies tell you. The food companies tell you, like, Kellogg's and the Koch brothers. They tell you it's your fault, not ours, it's your fault. And they tell you it's fine to consume our product as long as you don't have too much of it. So, and they know that's bullshit. They've done the research. They know how the body works, how the endocrine system works, the hormonal system works, how they can hijack it. They deliberately make products to hijack our bodies. So we basically eat more of their shit. But most people out there expect that the expert that they go to will do the right thing, as all these other experts do. Why should the doctors or the pharmacists or whatever, that small group of not be as professional as all the others? Because we have a tendency of generalizing. We as humans generalize about everybody. So we expect that everybody should do the right thing as a professional. So we generalize. We don't assess or analyze specific areas. until we get really sick and we start questioning things like I did and many others. But up until that point, we all accept that the professional knows what they're saying. And that's why people are compliant with bullshit. That's why they can be manipulated, and that's what's basically happening. It's been happening for a long time. But in the past, they didn't have the mechanisms of propaganda. See, in the past, as my father used to call the TV, called it the stupid box. It dumbs you down. It's the stupid box. The reality is they didn't exist. In the past, the only thing that was a newspaper, the Telegraph, a newspaper and all that. It was really hard for the elites to control people's thinking. They had to be a bit more smarter, and it was really hard to control even professions. Now they can really control them because even though the computerization of our economies and our societies, these automation and all that, have really given us great productivity, great, innovations and changed the way where I can communicate with you guys all over the world. The reality is it's a double-edged sword. The other side is they can use these same technologies to control us and to manipulate our minds and to make us believe that certain things are good for us when they're not. And that's how it's been happening. Goebbels, he thought it was, the cinema, the modern cinema and all that was the greatest invention for them to control the people of Germany. And he hired all these people to basically make movies to brainwash people. They're doing it, and since then they've still been doing it. And that's what's been happening. It's just that's the world we live in. Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, I've known doctors who basically tell you not to do certain things, which they do. As I said, some that are morbidly obese, and they will sit on the other side and tell you to eat less calories. Yes. Yes, look, it is like that sometimes. It takes time, patience, Jared, with family. Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Again, it's the same thing, it's because people are being brainwashed to believe in calories and all sorts of things. Yeah, it takes time. Some people will listen, some people won't. It takes time and it's hard for some people. No, I don't believe so. And I'll tell you why. It's because SARS-1 and SARS-2. SARS-1 has come out of SARS-2 has come out of SARS-1. They're very similar, correct, and they don't mutate very easily. It's taken a long time for where the flu strains mutate constantly. They are the most mutagenic viruses of all. That's why it's nearly impossible to create a vaccine for the flu. It's practically useless. You can't be protected by the flu. All you can do is update but if you take the flu vax, you just update your template, which means that the immune system isn't completely bamboozled by the next variation. But with this one, no. This one, the SARS type coronaviruses tend to mutate very slowly. So it's taken this one very long to mutate to these other strains that are slightly able to get into the population, move through the population a bit faster. That's all. So, yeah. Yep. Oh, look, in the past, me too. It's more in recent times. It was basically the economic crisis. I mean, the economic crisis forced my sisters back to Australia, and one of them had to live with me. So she had to eat what I ate. And by eating what I ate, her health improved because she was actually a vegetarian. Living with me, she had no option. She had to start eating more animal foods, whether she liked it or not, because I wasn't going to make any fucking shit for her. So she either ate or starved, and she ate. And as she ate, she got better. And she was shocked that food could cure her asthma. Animal foods can cure her asthma. Yes. How funny is that? But that's exactly what happened. Yes, yes. We're repeating the Middle Ages, experts, the sciences, priest class. Yeah, very much that is true. The population is dumbed down so bloody much that basically when it comes to these things, the expert is always right. Yes, it's a scary time that we don't question anything. Very much that is the case, So more on the family and friends and yes, that sort of stuff. I'm just going to flow through this because yes, Lukey, I'm still bloody here. I'm just about to pull the plug. It's 10:30 and I need to, because I need to hang my laundry. I've got it in my basket there. I haven't hung it yet. The latest one, it was my last batch. Since Friday, I've got my last batch there. I've completed my 5-week laundry backlog. Oh, it's been an exhausting affair to try and deal with all this backlog. G'day, Christina. Yeah, so so I'm going to hang that up and then basically go to fucking bed. So I better pull the plug here. It's been great chatting with you guys. I hope you got something out of it. We talked all sorts of shit. I gave me an opportunity to vent my spleen. And anyway, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Take care. And I will see all you lovely people next weekend on Sunday for those in the Eurasian right through to Australasian area, and Saturday evening for those stateside. Anyway, North and South America. Damn, the link is taken off again. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with YouTube. Fucking crazy. They've been removing things left, right, and center. You can't share links. Need to be a moderator. Yeah, that's the other thing. And I can't actually deactivate that. I can't do anything. This is like my store, my outlet, and I've got limited control over it. It drives me up the wall. Absolutely drives me up the wall. I can't set anything. I'd love to basically allow not only moderators but also subscribers, but I can't do that. It won't allow me. Yes, you're welcome, mate. Yeah, thanks, mate. Yep, see you, Nick. See you, Lamps. See you, Angela. Thank you. God bless to you as well. And Lukey. And I'm out of here, you wonderful people. Thanks for being here. Appreciate the support. And I will see you guys soon. Ah, yes, Commander. See you, mate. I'm out of here. Thanks, Dom. See you, mate. And see you, Bert.